Okie dokie. So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission of Greenwich being held virtually. Today is Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. Some announcements prior to starting the meeting. First of all, the following applications have been postponed. The Bridgeport Roman Catholic Diocese Corporation for a final subdivision at 35 Parsonage Road. GFC Havermeyer LLC and GFC LLC for a final site plan and special permit for a 6 dwelling unit development at 230 Mason Street and 16 Havermeyer Place, which for many of you is more familiar as the Armory. The next one is 515 East Putnam LLC. That's application number 7 for a zoning map amendment to rezone 5 Brookridge Drive from R20 to R20 HO. I believe that will be permanently withdrawn as that zone is, was that already zoned or not? No, it was not. So that will be just postponed. 515 East Putnam LLC for a final site plan and special permit at 5 Brookridge Drive. And then also postponed is all the applications from Greenwich American Can, which is a final site plan and special permit, as well as a zoning text amendment and a zoning map amendment. All 3 of those are postponed. That's One American Lane. And now the next announcement is that Mr. Levy is no longer on the Planning and Zoning Commission. And the RTM appointed Mr. Wells last night to become a regular member of the Planning and Zoning Commission, replacing Mr. Levy's position. And that was effective as of last night. So Mr. Wells will be seated on all of the applications that Mr. Levy was seated on. Mr. Wells is familiar with the record on all these applications and has not missed any of the meetings. We will also re-announce it as we go. Our first application this evening is, there are 2 decisions. The first thing we're going to do is consider the Town of Greenwich Department of Public Works municipal improvement application for a redesign of town property to replace the Dorothy Hamill Rink within the Eugene Morlott Memorial Park. Sorry, Mr. Wald, if you're listening. That's at 0 Western Junior and 1 Sue Mertz Way in the R6. As this will go tonight, we are going to close the MI tonight, and then we would decide it based on how that decision goes. We have already closed the preliminary site plan for the same application, for this MI application, and we would then decide that preliminary site plan based on what we do with the MI. So with that, Mr. LaRoe, is the applicant here on the MI?
I cannot see the screen,
Okay.
Madam Chair, so it would be Mr. Lormano, and I believe he might be under Marie T.
He's smart enough to raise his hand, so he's in.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, I do want to note, you stated that the Armory was postponing, and they are not.
Oh, they're not?
No.
Oh, okay. Take that all back, guys. The Armory did not postpone. I don't know why I wrote it down. Okay, I'm glad someone told me. It's on. Okay. I guess I just wanted to go to bed early. Okay, we've got Mr. Romano. Is there, you're the only one, right, Mr. Romano?
Good evening, Madam Chair. Could you please promote Joe Siciliano and Sheila Spina as well?
Joe? And who is the other person?
Sheila Spina, my project manager in DPW.
All right. Got it. Thank you, Sheila, for raising your hand. Thank you. And Bianca, you were listening. That's really impressive. All right. Okay, so everybody's in, Mr. Romano. No, we've heard it a lot of times. We kept it open until we got to we were ready to decide the site plan. Do you want to lead off with anything?
Sure, yeah, we're here to seek the municipal improvement status for the Dorothy Hamill skating rink in its redesign within Eugene Morlock Memorial Park. Discussed a few things with the MI and the site plan, understanding that the site plan is closed. And I believe we left it off with some review of the municipal improvement tenants and seeing where that takes us. So is there anything you'd like for me to speak towards, or?
No, I spent some time over the weekend pulling all the sections of the POCD together that are relevant, and I'm going to cite those for the commission. I think you're familiar with them, and then we will act accordingly. There are what I would propose to the commission is that there are changes that we can make in the current site plan that would bring it into greater POCD compliance, and that would be the basis of this decision.
Yes, Madam Chair, if I may, I concur with all of that. Most of what we have to say remains within those last 2 pages that we submitted on the last application in regards to the POCD and how we believe we are in compliance with that. And we certainly want to just come out and say that we're very open to continued engagement with all various aspects and members of the community to further embrace the POCD and comply as close as we can.
Okay, that sounds great. Mr. Siciliano, do you want to add anything?
No, I think Mr. Romano said that. We want to make it, as I said in the last meeting, a win-win for all involved in this project, both the community and the field users and the skaters. So I think we can extend ourselves to continue that conversation and to see how we make it more community friendly and usable. And I think there are some options there that we can engage with some of the discussions with the leadership of like the BNA and a few others. So very, very positive. We want to move it in that direction.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Mr. Siciliano. With that, I'd like to ask the commission if they have any objection to closing the MI at this time. Anybody object to closing the MI? Just for the record, Mr. McRae is recused from the vote, and seated on this application will be Albin, Jenkins for McRae, Wells, who has now replaced Mr. Levy, Mr. Lowe, and Mr. Yeski. This application is now closed, and I will.
Madam Chair, did you want to go to public comment? I'm sorry.
Oh, that's a really good idea, Patrick. And Mr. Shahadi has his hand up. Good, thank you. Mr. Shahadi. Anybody else from the public? I apologize. I thought we were kind of done and we weren't. So please, Mr. Shahadi, go ahead. If you'll just unmute, Mr. Shahadi, you're all set.
Good afternoon, everybody. I wasn't prepared to speak. I didn't know there would be hearings. There'd be public opportunity to comment.
Yeah, I kind of blew past it anyway. So thank you for being there.
I just wanted to reiterate the Byram Neighborhood Association's opposition to the current plan and focus on a couple of key points. One, the planning started, as Joe Kantorski mentioned a couple of weeks ago, with the defining goal of no loss of rink time. There never was a defining goal about inclusion of the local neighborhood, protection of a local neighborhood park, and we think that's led us to an incorrect outcome. Two, as highlighted in the BNA letter that was circulated a couple of weeks ago, the comparables that are being used are completely inappropriate. Size, location, the number that are in commercial areas, the numbers that are in large open space or larger parks, they are not in any way comparable to the park where this is being located. We feel strongly that this pushes back, does not advance POCD goals 1 and 4. And finally, just to point out some of the things that I think are questionable in the town's argument, Mr. Romano and Mr. Siciliano have made the argument that there is no loss of green space. They are adding up multiple small pieces of green space to get to the same square footage. And that is not in any way comparable to the current large contiguous open green space. I don't know this for a fact, but I've been told by other people who double checked the calculations The green space in the town's calculation includes things like the parking lot medians. I don't think anybody would agree that multiple small pieces is the same thing as one large contiguous space. So again, I would encourage the members of this committee to ask the town to go back, start over, and find a way to put it on the existing site and include the neighborhood from the start, not as a second thought. Thank you.
Okay, got it. Alrighty. Thank you very much. The next speaker, thank you, Mr. Shahadi. I appreciate your being able to jump in. The next speaker is Rick Lowe. Mr. Lowe, there he comes. Mr. Lowe, anytime? There you go. Okay, Mr. Lowe, if you would unmute again, you were unmuted and then you muted.
No,
Okay, go ahead.
I was just connecting, sorry.
Okay.
I just wanted to speak quickly on the, this plan is a common sense approach to solving the problem that we face. The rink we have has reached the end of its usable life. Building the new rink on the baseball field will allow us to continue to use the old rink until the new one is ready to go. The baseball field would need to be restored anyway because of all the construction work that will be going on. Even if we renovated the existing rink, the baseball field would have to be a staging area, and it would need to be redone anyway. So redoing it in this way allows us to reorient the field, allows us to keep using the existing rink, which is by far the lowest cost solution to this issue. And I just hope that we can apply the same method that we're going to use or we used for New Lebanon School. We'll be using it Central Middle School, we'll be using it the pump station on Strickland Road. And that is build the new one next to the old one, close the old one, and make the changes necessary. Madam Chair, thanks for the time, and thanks to the Commission for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Lowe. All right, with that, is anybody else from the public wish to speak on this on the municipal improvement application for the rink? No. Okay, that being the case, does anybody object to closing the application at this time? Hearing no objection, this application is hereby closed. Again, just for the record, seated on this application are Albin, Jenkins, Wells, Lowe, and Yeski. I'm going to begin by reading a motion. I've emailed it. Oh, okay. I'm going to have to read it because Bianca, I'm going to email it to you now. If you would screen share.
I have it. I'll put it up.
Oh, you have it. She got it. Okay. So I've emailed it to staff so that you can follow as I read it. So in regard to the Town of Greenwich Department of Public Works application for a municipal improvement for a major redesign of town property to replace the Dorothy Hamill rink within the Eugene Morlott Memorial Park with a new 40,671 square foot rink facility to be relocated to the north of the current rink building. Relocation and replacement of the current baseball field, improve vehicular circulation, and a walking path for passive recreation through the park. Additional signage to identify the Byram Veterans Memorial Grove and the location of the Thomas Lyon House for the properties of 11.53 acres and 1.79 acres located at 0 Western Junior Highway and 1 Sue Mertz Way in the R6. Whereas in reviewing the municipal improvement application for this project, the commission finds the following guiding principles and objectives from the 2019 POCD relevant to its decision. Guiding principle 1, preserve our community character and sense of place. The importance of Greenwich's character, community, and sense of place cannot be overstated. These components are essential to the town's identity and are at the core of planning and policy. This principle is not intended to prohibit change, but rather enable Greenwich to make improvements that protect, preserve, and enhance character elements and that add to our sense of place. Objective 1.1, use streetscape improvements such as streets, furniture, sidewalk patterns, signage, and landscaping as a way to foster a sense of place and create distinguishing features throughout the town. Objective 1.2, prevent commercial impacts and activities from encroaching on residential zones. Objective 3.1, increase buffer space as well as planting requirements between institutional and residential uses, particularly around parking lots, auditorium spaces, and athletic facilities. Avoid the removal of trees on town property, including at parks and schools, and if removal is required, ensure that replacement ratios are met. Guiding principle 4, sustain and improve our natural environment and landscape. Objective 4.1, encourage the use of existing building footprints in redevelopment or reuse. Objective 4.2, support the installation of microgenerators using renewable power sources such as rooftop solar installations in keeping with the town character. Encourage less automobile usage by promoting alternate forms of transportation such as walking, bicycling, and public transportation. Objective 4.4, advocate for a reduction of site coverage and where pavement cannot be avoided, promote the use of pervious pavement to reduce impervious area as part of any new development or redevelopment. Objective 4.5, capitalize on opportunities to develop additional parkland, particularly in areas of the community that lack access to parks. Showcase environmentally appropriate planting in parks. Healthy parks foster healthy human and animal communities alike. Create inviting and appropriate spaces for animals such as pollinator gardens. Enhance health and wellness through innovative and diversified recreation, leisure, and cultural opportunities in parks. Guiding principle 6, provide the best quality infrastructure, municipal facilities, cultural institutions, and health services. Objective 6.2, green public parking lots. Objective 6.3, support institutional uses while balancing their needs with those of the surrounding neighborhoods. Whereas the commission further notes that the guiding principles are listed in order of priority, with guiding principle 1 being the most important, preserve our community character and sense of place. Whereas the commission has reviewed the preliminary site plan accompanying the municipal improvement application and will be requiring that certain modifications be incorporated thereto to bring the proposal to full consistency with the POCD. Therefore, be it resolved that this municipal improvement application is hereby approved. Okay, do I have a second? And you can stop the screen share, I think.
Second.
Mr. Lowe has seconded. Would you all like to discuss this? Okay. Mr. Yeski, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Lowe?
Aye.
Ms. Jenkins?
Nay.
And Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Albin is also aye, and with that, the motion passes 4-1. We now go to the final site, the preliminary site plan application. Please note that where this was both a site plan and special permit, we will not be acting on the special permit at this time. In regard to the application, okay, time to share. And there'll be some changes in language that I jotted down listening to the speakers. So, if you see a difference, oh, that's cool. That's the
Hold
MI.
on, I'm
Yeah,
getting it.
yeah.
I don't know why
Right
it came
over
up like that.
Oh, yeah. I'll start while you're doing that.
Right.
Application of the Town of Greenwich Department of Public Works for a preliminary site plan and special permit to replace the Dorothy Hamill rink within the Eugene Morlot Park with a new 40,671 square foot rink facility to be located to the north of the current rink building. Relocation and replacement of the current baseball field, improved vehicular circulation, a walking path for passive recreation through the park, additional signage to identify the Byram's Memorial Tree Grove, and the location of the Thomas Lyon House and related site work, the result of which would exceed 150,000 cubic feet in building volume for the properties of 11.53 and 1.79 acres located at 0 Western Junior Highway and 1 Sue Mertz Way in the R6 zone. Whereas the zoning enforcement officer advised on November 7th that he has no issues with the proposed site plan. Whereas on August 24, 2024, the DPW Sewer Department requested written acknowledgement of its comments, and this was provided. Whereas on November 8th, 2024, DPW listed items to be addressed prior to final site plan approval. Whereas on August 2nd, 2024, the Conservation Department commented, the new plantings in the parking lot will help to reduce the heat island effect. However, it is recommended that the western and southern edges of the parking lot be planted with low growing ground cover to help slow runoff coming off the parking lot. The proposed heating and cooling system for the new rink should be carefully reviewed in regard to capturing and reusing excess heat generated by the ice making machinery. Whereas on November 8th, 2024, the Commission's traffic consultant noted the following remained outstanding: a clarification of the storage lengths shown in Table 2, calculated queue lengths that are provided for the intersection of the West Putnam Ave and Western Junior Highway in Table 3, but not in Table 2. The synchro analysis sheets that did not include queue lengths, the exclusive pedestrian phase shown on the synchro sheets. West Putnam Avenue, Western Junior intersection appears low. Please confirm that the timing is correct. That is supposed to be 1 point, my apologies. Consider providing pedestrian crossing warning signs at the proposed crosswalks on Sue Mertz and the main aisle within the parking lot. Recommend the details that are not applicable from the site. Recommend removing details that are not applicable from the site details plan sheet. If not already proposed, parking on site for bicycles should be provided. Provide vehicle turning diagrams to illustrate that vehicles such as emergency services and trash trucks can appropriately access and maneuver through the site. Whereas in reviewing the municipal improvement application for this project, the Commission found the following guiding principles and objectives from the 2019 POCD relevant to its decision. Since I have just read those in the MI, I'm going to skip over them. You've got them all from the MI motion, so I believe it is on the record, and we can just go to the end on the next page. Whereas the Commission notes the guiding principles are listed in order of priority, with guiding principle 1 being the most important, to preserve our community character and sense of place. Whereas the Commission further notes that this application is oriented to guiding principle 6, provide the best quality infrastructure, municipal facilities, cultural institutions, and health services. Whereas the Commission further recognizes that the rink has reached the end of its useful life. Whereas the Commission has reviewed this preliminary site plan, which forms part of the municipal improvement application. Whereas the Commission has re-examined all public comments submitted for the municipal improvement and preliminary site plan applications. Whereas the most salient concerns from the public relate to the relocation of the rink and the potential loss of passive recreation opportunities. Whereas these two areas of public concern relate directly to the previously cited relevant sections of the 2019 POCD. Whereas the commission has approved the municipal improvement application on the basis that the final site plan can be fully compliant with the guiding principles and objectives of the 2019 POCD. And here we come to all the conditions. So as you look at these, think of anything you would change. Therefore, be it resolved that the preliminary site plan is moved to final with the following requirements. Reevaluate the relocation of the rink in terms of the best interest of the greatest number of residents. The applicant has represented that the relocation has several benefits, including skating during construction, enabling the use of solar panels, reducing ledge removal, and offering the opportunity to install a regulation baseball field oriented to reduce sun glare for the player. At the same time, the commission has noted that the loss of skating time, that the continuation of skating time may benefit only a small segment of the population, while the public has commented that the rink relocation will permanently affect passive recreation users, such as the McKinney Terrace residents who currently have a great vantage point for viewing the Straza Field games. 2, submit complete information about the rinks used by GPS students for away events. Adjust the rink site plan as necessary to be competitive versus municipal facilities in other towns and to provide optimal conditions for Greenwich students. In this regard, the commission supports the 85 by 200 ice sheet, but seeks more information about the specifications for the ancillary facilities and amenities. 3, reconfirm that an additional regulation baseball field is a top Parks and Recreation Department priority. Incorporate, this is number 4, incorporate at least the following improvements into the proposal. Install shade trees, benches, native shrubbery, butterfly gardens, mileage markers, etc., along the walking path to convert it into a focal point and source of pleasure for passive users of Moorlot Park. Create a viewing and relaxation area behind McKinney Terrace with shade trees and picnic tables to replace the existing. Upgrade playground facilities for young children. Ensure significant protection of the Memorial Grove trees. Consider additional planting within the grove to enhance this area and make it a park focal point. Work with the ARC to add visual appeal to the windowless wall of the rink, which would face McKinney Terrace. Provide enhanced screening between the athletic facilities and the adjoining residential neighborhood. Ensure lighting is fully compliant with the lighting regulations. Review parking and traffic in light of potentially concurrent uses of the 2 athletic facilities. Verify that all green space calculations are correct. Provide a full schedule, this is number 5, provide a full schedule and types of uses for both the proposed facilities. Work with EMAC to investigate the feasibility of installing a geothermal system for heat, cooling, hot water, and from which the adjacent Greenwich community's residents may also benefit for the purpose of utility cost reduction. Prior to any further work on the plans, schedule a site walk with the P&Z Commission, during which they may review flagging of the perimeter for the proposed rink in the new location, the baseball field, and the footprint for a new rink at the existing location. Include the neighborhood in this, an invitation to the neighborhood in this site walk. Schedule the application as a discussion item for the commission immediately following the site walk. Address all other outstanding staff and departmental concerns. Do I have a second?
Second.
That was Lowe?
It was.
Okay, Mr. Lowe has seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Yeski.
Yeah, I wonder if it'd be helpful if you can explain to the public the difference between a preliminary site plan and a final. We know this, but it's important, particularly with the conditions you're putting on.
A preliminary site plan. No, I'm just thinking of how to say it. So a preliminary, Patrick, feel free to jump in.
No, a preliminary is a non-binding decision of the commission, which indicates items that should be addressed under a final site plan application. We have used this specifically with municipal improvements. We have used this in allowing for the design build to go forward, understanding that what the parameters will be or what the expectation will be on the outcome on the backside of it. So it allows for the town to not expend an enormous amount of capital in designing something quote unquote for permit, and allows it to be preliminary just by the nature of it. And so that is the process. So the binding discussion here is there is no permit that's going to be issued or no inevitable build. It's just moving it on to the next phase of design and budgeting and all the other governmental activities that have to happen in order
to build on that. Thank you, because I didn't know how to say it concisely. So, and to build on that, what we are asking for is for all the locations to be flagged, so that we can go walk them and look at them and see where the layout is and how, and then come back and hold a public hearing, include the neighborhood and any resident who wants to join, and comment on that. And this was an idea sent to me by a commission member who felt that often that both we and the public may not have a full vision of where something exactly is going to sit. So if it's flagged and everybody sees it, then everybody can be on the same page. Mr. Lowe, you had your hand up.
That was an error on my part because of my sausage-like fingers hitting the wrong button.
Okay, we'll go to the non-sausage speaker, Madam Jenkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I've created something which I'm going to read, and I hope it's not too bad, but my voice is very weak today, so I'll try to get through this. My analysis of this application has focused to a large degree on POCD Objective 6.3, which requires that I strike an appropriate balance between two desirable goals for the town. I support the creation of a first quality ice facility as an appropriate institutional use for the town. But that objective cannot be considered in a vacuum. I must balance the needs of skaters, both individuals and teams, with the needs of the general population who may never use the facilities and the needs of the adjacent neighborhoods. It has often been said in other contexts by my fellow commissioners that our decisions outlive us. When we choose to approve any new construction of this magnitude, the town lives with the result of that decision for the next 75 years or longer. Accordingly, I have tried to view this proposal as one of particular seriousness for the future. Last week, I spent a very cold hour walking the site. I've submitted for the record 4 photographs taken from the picnic area immediately adjacent to McKinney Terrace. The point of these photographs is to indicate that the current location of the baseball field, which will be used and fully occupied by the new proposed rink and the traffic circle in front of it, will be extraordinarily close to both senior residential facilities and more particularly the Veterans Memorial Park, which is entitled to particular protection. Where there is now open green space, light and air, the vista will be the northern structural windowless wall of a 35-foot high non-residential structure, approximately 100 feet from the very flagpole that marks the memorial site. I am opposed to the relocation of the rink proposed in this site plan. Moving the rink and expanding the size of the baseball diamond result in a tight and overwhelming presence of sports facilities in one of the few remaining areas of the neighborhood available for open space and unstructured outdoor activities. This proposal elevates, in my opinion, the programming needs and objectives of the Department of Parks and Recreation over the protection and enhancement of a neighborhood green space with charm and history. Even with careful scheduling of competitive events, the increase in traffic and operational hours create additional safety and quality of life issues for the neighbors in the park and around the park. Once a park changes its focus from quiet, unstructured uses and instead dedicates significant space and resources to organized year-round sports activity, some of which will now include daily hours as late as 11 p.m. in the evening, the park has become a mere convenient accessory. The decision to construct a 40,000 square foot building in what does not present itself, in my opinion, as the obvious and natural location for such a structure will overshadow the residential character of McKinney Terrace and surrounding neighborhoods and the solemn and beautiful prospect of the Veterans Memorial Grove. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Question for you, Madam Jenkins.
Yes, ma'am.
Other than retaining the rink in its current location, is there any other change to the preliminary site plan that would bring you to greater support for the relocation?
I can't think of anything given the fact that the design of the building seems to be necessary based upon where they are moving it to. That's a very tight corner. And I don't know what could be done to the building itself and still have the rink that's being requested and the baseball field that's being requested. So Madam Chair, I'm not aware of anything. I think the conditions are well structured if the prospect is to continue with that location.
Well, and also that the first thing we're asking them to do in the conditions is, and let me just go back and see if there's,
Evaluate.
is to give us a reevaluation. And I know that when I mentioned it at the last meeting, Mr. Siciliano said, we've covered this ground. But the point has come up, and as I go back through the public testimony, over and over again, the public felt that we had, that the decision not to lose ice time had come first, and the justification for the relocation came second. And I think as this goes to final, it is essential that we establish a very good record that this really is the only appropriate location. And this decision was taken by the committee a couple of years ago, but it is now in our camp, and we have not been given, from what I can see, the full. Yes, we know some of the points. We know the baseball field and the advantage of the glare and the fact that you can have solar. And there's a point I forgot to mention, which is there's also, oh, no, we do have it in there. There's less soil disturbance. There's less regrading. There's less ledge removal, I think is really the best way of saying it. So there are justifications, but they have not been convincing to the neighborhood. And so I believe we need to really establish a record on that, which is what you're asking for.
I would concur with that, Madam Chair. I think particularly there were other opportunities to consider the availability of temporary ice use, either in 15 minutes away in 9 different directions, or even possibly a temporary rink, which the proponents included in their survey, and there didn't seem to be a lot of objection to a temporary rink in another location either. So I think the preservation of skating opportunities for 2 years was a driving factor here, but the result is going to be, a permanent change to Moorlot Park, and I think it's important that we keep in mind 2 years versus 75 years is quite a difference in terms of the overall effect of this proposal.
Point taken. Anybody else? Mr. Lowe.
I think that with regard to one of Ms. Jenkins' comments, I'd like to just say that having been to the site a number of times myself and walked it, that the current placement of the tree grove, which is right behind the old school building, right now overlooks the parking lot directly. And I think that a site walk to a flagged park would help inform both the commission and the community with regard. I would then like to request that during our final deliberations that the town provide very specific measurements with a comparison of the existing facilities and the proposed changes. And where there is overlap of the proposed rink structure onto the current baseball diamond, that should be shown both with the flagging, but also with charts, et cetera. And just as importantly, what the space where the current rink is, including the surrounding impervious pavement, what that will look like, so that the community and the commission can be in a position to visualize this better than I think we've been able to. That's my position anyway. Thank you.
And you're saying that one of the things that they need, that you would want to add to the motion, you're amending the motion with a request that side-by-side illustration of the proposed improvements?
Yes, with specific measurements. So we can compare the differences and come to our conclusion about what the impact is of these changes, proposed changes.
All right, Mr. Yeske.
Yeah, I would like to pick up on that and kind of reinforce the conditions in this motion, which is we're very serious. We really want an expanded look at the area, and it feeds the Mary and Peter's comments that they need to really take an honest whole look at the trade-offs between a little extra ice time and forever, 50 years worth of getting 10 months at this point in time. So we're all very concerned about that. We've got enough, but in one level, but it just seems like there's a lot missing. So I just wanted to reinforce that.
Okay. So this side-by-side is to allow an evaluation of the trade-offs of the relocation of the rink.
But
is that correct?
But also include other improvements, amenities, changes to the walkways or pathways, the anticipated landscaping. It's difficult, I find, to go over there and envision all of that. And since we don't have a specific plan, for example, that I've seen of anticipated embellishments to the park, I find it difficult to envision it in my head.
Okay. Because I think where you all are agreeing with this motion is if the relocation of the rink is absolutely the best and wisest course, the answer is embellish, as you just said, Mr. Lowe, the rest of the park so that it, as is in the motion, it becomes a focal point. It becomes a source of pride in the community. And a jewel like a Binney or a Bruce Park for their communities. Mr. Yeske, are you done?
Yes.
Madam Jenkins.
Madam Chair, I think in response to your last comment, part of the problem that I foresee is that, again, you're embellishing what's left of the park, and you're going to have a significant building that's going to, here goes the voice, that's going to, potentially crowd in the very valuable areas that we have now with the McKinney Terrace and the memorial. It's not just that they're taking up the space of the park, they're actually going to be almost walling it in. And one of the concerns I have about a sidewalk, and I think it's a wonderful idea, and I certainly could use another opportunity to do that, is that you have markers of dimensions, but you have to then picture a 35-foot building without windows within those dimensions. So a site walk is helpful, but it doesn't necessarily give a full impression of what the presence of a building of that magnitude would be on that location. I mean, maybe people's imagination is better than mine in terms of, and on the spot, we're going to have an institutional building with no windows. Again, it's a site walk is helpful because it's hard to see things on paper that you simply can't see it on paper the way you can when you're there. So I appreciate that as being an opportunity to re-examine relocation at the rink. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Wells.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment. I saw Mary's photographs and have been there as well many times. And yeah, she makes an excellent point as to the
Bianca,
loss. Excuse
Bianca,
me.
could you Bianca, could you just share it while Mr. Wells is talking so everybody sees it?
Thank you.
So what do you want me to share?
The photos.
Yeah.
that-
Mary had some photos that she
Yep.
added to the record.
Got it.
Okay.
And this is, you can't really mitigate it. I agree. My suggestion might be that I don't know to what extent the residents of McKinney Terrace, we talk about the loss of the view, but to what extent are they encouraged to come to a hockey game, come out and see a baseball game? And I just wonder if Parks, as part of this, Parks and Recreation could periodically go there, meet with the residents, and help them get park passes, which you need to get into the skating rink.
Yeah, but seniors are free.
Okay, seniors are free as long as they have
So yeah, that's a
license,
great,
right?
yeah.
And a lot of them aren't driving,
not.
so
Yep.
there just may be something else that Parks and Recs could do to make it more beneficial to the residents of McKinney Terrace to come over. Obviously, they can walk now, make it easier to get down from McKinney Terrace down onto the ground there, to go to a hockey game, to see a baseball game, and perhaps feel more part of the community. I don't know, maybe some of them even skate. Maybe there can be a special program, but I'd like to see an effort done to include the residents of McKinney Terrace in whatever we do here in the park. Thank you.
Bianca, can you scroll to the picture that shows?
There's another one, Bianca, that's a little closer.
That's the one. So this is the viewing area. There are 2 trees here. This is where they sit. You see the tables, and this is where, and they don't need to move around. And this is basically where the rink building is going to be.
Yeah. And in fact, Madam Chair, there's not only 2 tables, there are tables all along that elevated area. So it's not just a limited area. There's actually quite an extensive, well, relatively extensive area there. Bianca, one more, please. There's another one and the last one, I think. That one. If the wooden bleachers outside the fence are considered the dugout, if you look at the drawings that show the new traffic circle, it's going to come perilously close to the flagpole. I mean, we're talking about affecting the affect of a memorial area. And I didn't realize it was that close from the drawings, but walking there and going, if the baseball field is that close and you are putting a drive loop in front of a 35-foot building there, that's going to be that much closer to McKinney and to the Memorial Park. So that was the reason for my photographs, was I guess my own surprise at how short a distance it was when I was standing there versus looking at a drawing on a piece of paper. Thank you, Bianca. That was very helpful.
Mr. Lowe.
Yes, I just wanted to completely support Commissioner Jenkins' point about getting, not to put words in her mouth, but getting an appreciation for any massing that mere flags on the ground will not create the same kind of effect. And several years ago, we had an application before us, and I think it was Commissioner Yeski who was, if I'm wrong, he can correct me, but who was pressing for some sort of imposition of a three-dimensional model onto a site, which would enhance our appreciation for the impact, I think. And I don't know whether the town has the capacity to do that or not, but the more we can help people visualize what the end result will look like, the better we will all be in evaluating the appropriateness of its location.
Mr. Yeski.
Yeah, it was me. I still would, we've said this a couple times, the technology is available for this kind of rendering and visual aid. And I think it's pretty clear by now that this preliminary, when it goes to final, we're going to be asking the same questions and demanding better, more thorough answers. And I hope the applicant is hearing all that. That software is very available.
Okay. I was just looking to make sure that they were still here.
That would, I hope they are.
Well, Mr. Siciliano is here and he's a key part of this. I'm not seeing Luigi. But we'll make sure that he understands. Anything else? There you are, Mr. Luigi. So Mr. Romano, you don't have to raise your hand. You can't talk to us right now anyway. I just wanted to make sure you were hearing the comments. Mr. Yeski, is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Is there any further comment from the commission? Okay, I have two amendments then. The first amendment, I'm going to paraphrase it, is that the final site plan include an outreach program for the McKinney Terrace residents, for the affordable housing residents. Whatever that may be, we've discussed it, but that there be an outreach program to them. And the other thing is, we've also said that when we do the site walk and then come back and discuss it prior to being submitted, we won't have seen the final site plan. We want them to come back and we have the site walk, and then we have a meeting with the neighbors available, so that before any further work is done, we've once again vetted all this and have included the neighbors. Because a comment that I didn't emphasize that I kept seeing is the neighbors would have wanted to be more included early on. And I thought the rink committee had done that, but there's never harm in doing more. So that was, and the other one was to show a side-by-side of all the proposed changes with measurements to allow an evaluation of the trade-offs, and to include in this any enhancements or embellishments that are being made, not only the rink and the baseball field, but also to the park in general. Those are the two amendments that we've just made to the motion. And the motion has been seconded. So with that, we'll go to a vote. Madam Jenkins?
Nay.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Mr. Lowe?
Aye.
Mr. Yeski?
Aye.
Albin is also aye, and with that, the motion passes 4-1, and we will go to the public hearing. Mr. Basili, just tell us you're good. Hi, Mr. Basili.
Hello, everything's fine.
Okay.
Ready to go.
All righty. Okay, so we now go to the public hearing. And our first application in the public hearing is Nightingale Veterinary Partners for a final site plan and special permit for a change of use from medical office to veterinary hospital, which will include both an eye center and a surgery center with 4 doctors and 20 veterinary employees on site, operating from 7:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. on a 28,000 square foot property at 100 Putnam Green, which is also known as 5 Western Junior Highway in the R6 zone. And with that, do we have the applicant? Applicant? I think it's Mr. Tessie, isn't it?
Yes.
I know he's here. There he is.
He's getting promoted, Madam Chair.
Don't let it go to his head. All right. Hello, Mr. Tessie.
Hello, Madam Chair.
I believe you have resolved the issues on this, but why don't you go ahead and give it from your point of view? Oh, and somebody, Zach has his hand up. That's right?
Yes, our client. He
Yeah.
spoke at the last hearing that you
Did one
had.
of you guys have him? I'm not seeing him anymore. Patrick, is he in?
I tried to promote.
I got him. I got him. Okay. Okay, on his way in, I guess. Okay,
Thank you.
all righty.
Hi, thank you. Good. For the record, John Tessie, representing the applicant, both the owner and the applicant in this application before you. I did listen to the staff briefing yesterday and commentary. Communicated with Jackie on just one subject for the sewer department in securing the acknowledgement letter of the most recent sewer department comments. So she has that. I don't know whether it was disseminated or not to the commission members.
The sewer letter? Yes, we have it.
Yeah, okay. So we're actually going to send you an original too. That'll be a little better copy because the owner is actually overseas. I had to blow it up a little bit. I think it's legible enough.
No, we saw it.
Good. Okay. So we've addressed that issue. Completely with the sewer department. There'll be more work with the sewer department that would be in connection with the zoning permit, not at this level. We reviewed the traffic comments and the parking comments from your department and also from Beta. Appreciated their acknowledgement of the work done by Mr. Canning. As you also know, we've submitted information that was done by our team on the question of nearby facilities in both disciplines that are going to operate. Okay, it's no pun. They're going to operate at this facility. We believe that one of the things that is established, which is an important element, actually it's a primary element for you all in decision making, is that since this is a change of use of a non-conforming property, you have to find that the full justification for it, that this use will not be more detrimental than previous approved use.
And very important in that is that our record of the previously approved use is an office use.
Yeah, I can explain to you what happened in that
But
regard.
that's the only record we have. And versus that use, this is no more non-conforming.
Yes.
Okay, so I would, yeah.
Okay, I won't beat it to death. What happened with the prior use is they applied for a building permit, they decided, but they never moved in. So there was no private, you're absolutely right, there was no prior use in the.
So the only prior use of which we have an official record is an office
Of-
use.
Of
And now-
occupancy, yes.
Yep, and now you're going to a use group 9 from use
Yes.
group 2, and that is no more non-conforming. It is not creating a greater non-conformity.
Non-conforming, not more detrimental to the.
Exactly.
We
Okay.
established that. And with
Okay.
that, Jack and John are here to answer any questions.
Okay.
Love to know.
Does anybody have any questions? Mr. McRae, you're supposed to be back on this.
Sorry about
Okay,
that.
you were. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Tessie? Does anybody from the public wish to speak on this application? This is Nightingale Veterinary Partners at 100 Putnam Green, AKA 5 Western Junior Highway. All right, and seeing no comments from the public and no comments from the commission, is there any objection to closing this application at this time? This application is hereby closed. Thank you very much, Mr. Tessie.
Thank you. Wish you all
Bye-bye.
a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and all that good stuff.
Bye-bye,
See you next year.
maybe.
Fingers
All
crossed.
right. All right, we now go to our next application in the public hearing, which is Mason Street Partners LLC. For a final site plan and special permit, we have Mr. Hegney, who doesn't like. Okay. And Mr. Hegney, do you have a cast that you wish us to promote with you?
Madam Chair, if you could promote co-counsel Tim Hollister and
Ah, you've promoted him again, huh? All right.
and also our client Josh Caspi.
Okay. All righty, we're all set. Okay, so our next application in the public hearing is number 5, Mason Street Partners LLC for a final site plan. We are continuing, since it is a modification of the previous application, we still have it as a special permit to develop properties on both the east and west side of Mason Street to build a mixed-use commercial and an assisted housing development per section 830G of the Connecticut State Statutes. This proposed action would construct 2 buildings where the first floor is retail and the upper floors would be 75 residential units, where 24 units, 12 in each building, would be below market, deed restricted for a minimum period of 40 years. The addresses for the parcels are 405 Greenwich Avenue, 290 to 294 Mason Street, and that's 13,330 square feet in total. Then you have 275 to 289 and 309 to 329 Mason Street, which is 53,885 square feet. Total, it is within the CGB and CGIO zones. And Madam Jenkins, Ms. Jenkins is recused from this application, and seated on it are Albin, McRae, Wells, Lowe, and Yeski. Mr. Lowe.
Well, are you sure? I think Wells may be seated for me, or did,
No, Wells is seated for Levy because he's Levy now.
okay, I thought I read something in there. So I put my hand up, but I wanted to first, if the applicant wanted to finish a statement or make a statement, then I would
Yes,
like to
be
comment.
the first one up. And Mr. Wells, is it the same for you? As soon as Mr. Hegney's done?
No, I just had a correction. I've seen it both ways of maybe the applicant's lawyer, whether it's in perpetuity or for 40 years. I've seen it both ways in the materials. So maybe Mr. Hagney could clarify. Thank
Mr.
you.
Hegney, if you would clarify when you speak. Okay, thank you, Mr. Wells. The law only requires 40 years. I believe they have offered perpetuity, but they can clarify. Okey doke, Mr. Hegney, you're on. And you'll call on your co-counsel as you see fit. Is that the idea?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Unless your co-counsel pipes up by themselves?
That might happen as well.
That might happen as well. Yeah, we all do that. Okay, Mr. Hegney, if you would go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. For the record, Tom Hegney on behalf of the applicant. To answer Mr. Wells' question, I think we have corrected those the affordability plan, and it reflects that it is in perpetuity for the restriction as affordable units, not for the 40 years that's in the statute. That was a commitment I think we made to you at the November meeting, and we have incorporated that into the documents.
Okay.
And Since the November 13th meeting, we've met with DPW Engineering and Traffic, and that has resulted in actually met on site with Mr. DeAndrea directing us on Mason Street, and resulted in the two memos you have from traffic and DPW Engineering that there are a few things to resolve, but those can be done prior to the issuance of a building permit, not prior to site plan approval. We also met with the sewer division, opened the manholes in Bruce Park Avenue. We've amended the plan to show that we have a separate sewer line running along Mason Street on our property, not within the town's existing sewer main, to the sewer tunnel in Bruce Park Avenue. And Mr. DeAndrea has amended his plan to reflect that so that there are no
So,
issues with
Hold on a
sewer.
second. So I hadn't picked up on that. The buildings have a separate sewer line that connects where into the sewer main?
It connects into the sewer tunnel on Bruce Park Avenue or under Bruce Park Avenue.
Okay,
There is a sewer line in Mason Street right now.
right.
The sewer division raised a question as to its capacity. And we said rather than dealing with the issue that would involve studying the whole area that feeds into that sewer line, we'll just create another sewer line parallel to that on our own property. And that will then hook into the sewer tunnel, which has more than adequate capacity. So we avoid the issue of is there capacity in the existing sewer line on Mason Street? That's for the east side building. For the west side building, there is a connection that we will be using that also goes into the sewer tunnel in Bruce Park Avenue. So then there is no issue of capacity that was raised by the sewer division previously.
That's wonderful.
We have revised our affordability plan, sent it to staff today and got comments back today. And actually one of them is addressing what Mr. Wells said. We had it in perpetuity in one place, but didn't mention perpetuity in the other. And so we will make that revision to it. But we provided the rest of the material that the housing specialist in your office had requested. We've also provided a lighting plan, which includes really just lighting for doorways with sconces on walls and also down-mounted lighting in the terrace areas. So there are no light poles associated with the development of this building at all. And we also responded to the fire marshal's comments. Fire marshal wanted to make sure that the building on the east side, since it's 6 stories, that we had a backup generator, which we did show on the plan and provided that to you. There were a couple of items that came up yesterday at the briefing. We provided written responses to those, but I just wanted to go over them briefly and then we can discuss them. One was the setbacks for the retail uses on both the east and west side. On the east side, we meet the side and street side yard setbacks of 10 feet on Mason Street and Bruce Park Avenue. And on the eastern side of the proposed building, the retail is 51 feet away from the R6 zone, whereas a minimum of 25 feet is required. So we meet that setback. On the west side, we provided an analysis that Mr. DeAndrea had prepared under section 6-129 of the regulations that the average of the buildings along that portion of Mason Street have a 3-foot setback. So we meet that. On the south side of the west building, there is an area that is questioned by staff as to how we would handle that. There is a existing building that is right on the property line that's 23 feet wide along that southerly property line. What we would do is incorporate that 50% more and indicate that within that area we would have the retail portion. Otherwise, it would be a mechanical use for the rest of the building. And that way we meet the setback on that side as well. We provided Mr. DeAndrea's survey and the architectural plans as along with that letter to Mr. LaRoe.
So you
The
meet the
second I-
setbacks, you meet the setbacks on the front and the street side on the east. You don't on this, on the other side or in the rear. And on the west side, you don't meet, you're arguing that you have, that the average front setback is relatively close to what you have, although it's still more than what you have, because you have 3 feet.
Right, we meet
And
the 3
you're,
feet.
and I thought you said 3.5. I mean, I'm just checking.
Just 3.
Okay,
3
and
feet.
then, but the street side and the side yards and the rear are still non-conforming.
That
That's
is
correct.
also though existing, there's an existing building there now, and we're not changing the setback for that building. On both the west side and on the north side.
You're talking about the Greenwich Avenue building.
No, I'm talking about the 290, 294 Mason Street in the CGB zone. On the CGBR zone, it's within the front and rear building lines, so there is no issue of setbacks,
Correct.
floor area.
And so you're
either.
saying, okay, thanks. Okay, so you're saying the side is existing.
The west side, yes, you can see the existing building at 294. And we have that portion where the
So that's for the street side where you have the 3 feet, but then you have the non-conformity in the side and the rear. Okay,
correct.
all right,
Yep.
thank you.
The other issue that was discussed at the briefing yesterday was comparability of the affordable units with the with the market rate units. And we asked our architect to prepare a chart which compares the smallest affordable unit with the smallest market unit. So you can see the percentage of size difference. 2-bedroom affordable is 80% of the 2-bedroom market, and the 3-bedroom affordable is 91% of the market. The 3-bedroom affordable is 91% of the market 3-bedroom unit. I also, on the plans that we submitted to you, the third bathroom has been added to the 3-bedroom units that are the affordable. Also within the affordability plan, the finishes for both the affordable units and the market units are the same. And
I'm
we
sorry,
amended
say that
that.
again, say that again.
The finishes for the market units and the affordable units
Right.
are the same. That they are
Right, and
are identical.
I think Mr. Caspi clarified, or someone clarified at a previous meeting, and then people could improve their apartments as they saw fit with fit and finish, but so to speak. But in the meantime, You start out with identical fit and finish, and then people can improve it. Our focus has been on the relative size of the units, and we'll hit that in a bit.
The other point that had come up previously in the discussions was who would have access to the amenities in both buildings, and all unit owners would have access to all of the amenities in both buildings.
You actually
on
made
either
that
side of
clear
the
the
street.
first time you came back. You made that statement the first time you came back, that when we reopened for this, when we opened for this modification, you told us that everybody would have access to the amenities. Okay.
And with that, I don't think that there are any other outstanding items that that we have not addressed, and we're hoping that we can proceed with an approval.
Mr. Lowe.
I'd like to address the issue of comparability. I'll start out by saying I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a garden variety town resident, volunteer, but stating, as the applicant's representative did in a letter today to the town planner, that there is no inequity or lack of comparability in having the affordable units be smaller than the market rate units seems to the layman anyway, to fly in the face of the English language and the definition of comparability. Looking at various sources, cited synonyms include equality, equivalence, likeness, and the phrase having features in common. I couldn't find a definition in any dictionary that mentioned a standard of 65 to 70%. The Wisnowski v. Berlin P&Z case, Judge Berger, I think, held that the purpose of the size and workmanship requirement was to prohibit a developer from taking advantage of bonus densities and building lesser units. So my question here is there any case law that the applicant has found to support such a 65 to 70% definition or standard?
Tim, I think you're on.
Sure. Good evening, Commissioner Lowe, and other commissioners, Attorney Tim Hollister, co-counsel with the applicant. There's no, Commissioner Lowe, there's no explicit case that says 65 to 70%. I will tell you, it is a standard that I and other land use lawyers around the state derived from the early case law, starting with Wisnowski. It has been never challenged when we use the 65 to 70% minimum. As I explained, or as Attorney Hegney explained in the letter to Mr. LaRoe today, comparability, besides being not identical, is achieved here through the finishes, amenities, and construction quality being the minimums and guarantees being spelled out. We've added the third bedroom. And, you know, it's just not, it is a reality that you can have smaller units, and these are not tiny units. And I think at one point in your remarks just now, you referred to inferior. There's nothing inferior about a 1,300 square foot or a 1,500 square foot unit in downtown Greenwich that's being sold at 30 to 35% of what the market value would be. So the affordable units are getting the royal treatment, if I may use that phrase, and we don't have to bump up the size. In addition, as the chair just mentioned, there is this recognition that, especially in a condominium like this, the market rate units can be, made more luxurious, and including slightly bigger, or even in some cases a lot bigger, because the comparison is between the smallest units and the smallest unit between market rate and affordable. So last thing I'll say,
No, Mr. Hollister, I'm sorry. I have to set the record correct. What I said is on fit and finish. I did not say that you could change the size, that you could make them bigger. I never bought into that. Not buying into that. All I'm saying is somebody could put in marble or granite counters or whatever, and the other guy has Formica, fine. But I am not buying into the market rates can be bigger, because that is, you've got to convince us. On this one, I remain unconvinced personally.
And also,
Okay.
I'd like to say, for the record, I think you said I used the word inferior. I do not believe I did. I said I was quoting Judge Berger, and his phrase, I believe, was lesser units. Now, your comments notwithstanding, that you're representing, in my mind, it sounds like you're representing a point of view. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't hear any substantive support in legal support to justify your opinions with regard to what qualifies as comparable.
Well, I said to you at the outset, and by the way, Madam Chair and Mr. Lowe, I did not mean to misquote you.
I'm sure you didn't, but we'll still, we'll still try to correct you if you do.
I understood.
I try to be
But-
careful with my words.
Well, I think we all do, but you asked, is there an explicit case that blesses 65 to 70%? The answer is no. It is a standard that I have used in probably 50 affordable housing applications around the state. I will tell you in all candor, this is the first time I've heard pushback on that particular standard because of all the other things that we're doing to make the units comparable. And I just ask you to look at those and accept those as a good faith effort on the part of the applicant to create comparability. Now, if we turn the tables here, and I could say, well, then what ratio do you think would be acceptable? I believe there was a comment from one of the staff about that the views might be inferior or lesser in some of the affordable units. Well, yes, there are some units that will not have as nice a view as others. And it may be that some or the bulk of those units views would be assigned to the affordable units, but that doesn't make them not comparable.
Now,
And
Well, I guess I would think.
wait, time out. We've talked to the Department of Housing on this, on other applications. And they had us move the units, okay? We had an 830G. Patrick, remind me what it was, because I always forget which app it was, but we said, so this is where the affordables are, and this is where we talked to the Department of Housing, and they said, nope, doesn't work. So again, over the years, not your application, but over the years, we have talked a lot with the Department of Housing, and they, Mike Santoro has told us that this comparability should be as to location as well. So it was Mr. McRae who made the point yesterday at the briefing. He said all the affordables are in the back of the building facing the cliff. And the conversation with us was, I believe, Patrick, there was one that was below ground. The affordable, it was a small development, and the affordable was below ground and everything else was above ground. And Mike said, no. We talked to Mr. Santoro.
Sorry, you're talking about another project or this project, Madam Chair?
No, another project. So over time, we have looked at the comparability in terms of the view, the location, and we have consulted with the Department of Housing. That one of them was in the R6.
Yeah, it was Hunt Terrace or
yeah.
one of
I
those.
know we relocated them. Nick, I know you're getting ready to talk. So that's the first thing. So we have personal experience, which counts, with those units having to be located fairly. Number one. Number two, again, we have no record of the 65 or 70% that you've advised your clients. And in fact, what over the years, the Department of Housing has always told us is they need to be the same size. Now, in your case, potentially that is not feasible, but we would not, I'm going to let Nick talk. Go ahead, Nick.
But let me,
What are the,
I just
what
like.
are the-
one-
yeah, go ahead. Nick's going to
respond
do the sizes.
briefly.
Go ahead.
No, yeah. I was going to say the fact that you have never come across this in the 50 odd or whatever number you just gave, other applications, really, we can't comment on other applications. We're commenting on this application.
And we
So-
can comment on what we've learned from the training we do, our conversations with the Department of Housing over the years as we were writing our affordable housing plan, et cetera, and our own experience with the applications before us and what the DOH has said.
And I would also say, again, we're not, or at least I'm not a lawyer, but I do appreciate that the importance of precedent, and I do appreciate the importance of what has come before, but we can't comment on, I'm not in a position to comment on your 50-odd other applications. We're focused on application.
And if it's, okay, Nick, you were
Yeah,
talking
Nick.
yesterday, Nick, what you were looking yesterday during the briefing at the sizes of the units, and I'm guessing you have
Yeah.
something to say about that, so go ahead.
So quick study, the west side, the average of a two bedroom is about 1,540 square feet. East side, about 1,442. That's
And
affordable.
this is what information we would have wanted the applicant to provide us when we raised the comparability question. Instead, a commissioner has had to do with the analysis, which I think is inappropriate, but go ahead, Nick.
I agree. For the market on the west side, the average is about 2,940 square feet. The east side, it's about 2,359. Okay. So that kind of, I think, kind of looking at this, it's like the affordables actually, the approximate average side on the west side is 1,540.
So about
And
half, it's 29 something on the west side and 1,540 on the,
Right.
on.
So the west side is about 1,400 square foot smaller per average. On the east side, it's about 918 square feet smaller.
So you're saying they're still not at 75% as there's.
No, yeah, the numbers are a little weird here. And this is just the two family I'm doing. Now, to add a little bit more to this, as I'm looking about is
Two-bedroom, you mean.
comparability. Yeah, comparability. Okay. For affordables on the west side, there are no balconies. For the affordables on the east side, there's some balconies, but there's no affordables on the 5th or penthouse floor. Most of the location on the west side for the affordables is in the back of the building, i.e. looking at the back of the buildings of Greenwich Avenue. On the east side, same, back of the building, looking into the cliff or looking into the back of the other houses that are there. So that kind of thing is that, as I went getting deeper into this, I'm thinking to myself, okay, why is that not working? Trying to understand the plans. Then I'm looking at the plans. There's no windows on the plans that have been presented. So we really don't know what they're looking at, how they're looking at things. And then I look even deeper. The plans that we have in front of us don't jive with what supposedly the elevations are showing us. And I got actually very confused because I'm trying to justify going back and forth in terms of the comparability. What's the final outcome here? And I'm finding still, gaps and holes and things between what's being proposed and when you disseminate the numbers, what we wind up with. And I still don't think that the comparability in terms of location, size, amenities, that kind of thing are there. It's just not there. And I'm calling this from the information that's been provided us as part of this resubmission.
So although the resubmission ostensibly brought the affordables to what Mr. Hollister would recommend being comparable, that is not the set of plans that we have before us. So there must be a mix-up on the set of plans.
I don't know. That's the question I would have, because the set I'm looking at was given to us as the resubmittal. See if I can find it. I don't know if there's even a date on these drawings. Oh, there it is. Hold on a second. This was dated, Mr. Hagney, correct me if I got the wrong plan. 11/22/24 P&Z resubmission. Is that the correct floor plan?
Let me just check what I have here, Mr. McRae. Yes. Yeah, that's the
Okay,
most
so the
recent
numbers that I
plan.
quoted
Right,
and the
so-
calculations I used were basically off of that floor plan for both sides. Each one of the units was actually given as a 2-bedroom in its size and its location, color-coded red, yellow, amenity space blue. So and I think the affordable 2-bedroom for both sides, the average is about 1,300 13 square feet. And the market 2-bedroom for both sides, the average is 3,864. That's the numbers I got.
Okay.
So I think actually taking,
we
taking a
still
really
don't
good look at
have-
it, how, yeah, it's still not there, I think, Madam Chair.
And yeah, and again, we would not it's nice that Nick did the work because we all looked at him and said, hey, you're the architect. But really, this has to be done by you guys, in my mind, because if we miscalculate something from your application, you're going to say we were in the wrong. So this has to come from you guys, and you would have to show us where you are with numbers. Now, that said, at 80% of area median income for these units, I'm having a hard time understanding why they would be 65% of the size. Now, Mr. Santoro has always said to me for years that, he's at 100%. But Mr. Hollister believes that a commission could have some flexibility because it's never been questioned in court, which doesn't give me a whole lot of comfort, but let's assume Mr. Hollister is right. And we could have some flexibility. That being the case, where you are now, where you're saying your plans are and what you're proposing, it's got a disconnect with what we've always been told about what comparability is. And Dennis, did I pronounce it right? Comparability.
Comparability.
Okay, so you guys say it different too. It's not just because I speak English as a second language. Okay, so whatever it is, the comparability, we've never heard this stuff before, so we have a hard time with it. If you had a logical argument that could convince us all, or at least me right now, but I'm hearing the same from the others, I'm open to it and I want to hear it. But you're at 80% of AMI for your population, so they're paying 80% of market in theory. And I heard you say you're not pricing them like that when you sell them. It's a different formula. But again, all I know is it's 80% of AMI. How come they get a unit half the size? That to me just doesn't seem the intent. That doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem the intent of the law, etc. So there we are on that. Does anybody want to throw anything out on the comparability? Okay. Dennis.
Yeah, I would love if Attorney Hollister would love to add to, first of all, they should come back with their own numbers. I absolutely agree. Number two, if there's other 830G cases in the state of Connecticut and they have size information, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I've not ever, hold on, because I'm bending over to get stuff out of the, I've not ever, every time we go to the CBA course, they give us all the relevant cases. It's 30 pages long.
I'm not talking about legal. I'm talking about actual buildings built.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Nobody in that 30-page thing that people give us of all the relevant 830G cases, there's nothing on size. It's very hard to find. I've not found anything where someone says,
I understand. I understand all that.
But Mr. Hollister just said the same thing. So if he can find a case, it would be great.
Well, there might be physical buildings somewhere that has actual sizes in it. So just throwing that out, because I understand it's not in the legal information, but if there have been buildings built that are like this, we'd like to see it. We had some in Greenwich where we objected to the size difference. Maybe there are other buildings in the state that he could bring and help us with the data. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's got to be other buildings built, and we'd like to understand the data there. All the data, not just the selected 2 buildings that they find that has something similar, but if they want to do that, we've asked another applicant's case to give us all the information on rezoning issues. We've asked in many cases for information across the town, not so much the state, but in this case, it's a state law. So we're trying to deal with that.
And again, I would far prefer for you all to come to the table with changes that you propose in your application, because what the case law does, and I think we've talked about it, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Doughty versus Newtown. and also the ones that Mr. Lowe cited. What the case law does is it says this isn't grounds for denial, but that we would modify it in order to get the comparability. I would rather have you all come to the table with what works something that makes sense, which is to give us comparability rather than put it in our hands to make the decision. Which, from what I understand, in Doughty, the court held that the concern could have been properly addressed by the commission by making changes to the application. And I would rather not do that unilaterally. I feel that it's better to work together towards increasing our affordable housing inventory, but it's your call. Based on that, go ahead, Mr. Hollister.
Thank you.
You didn't get an assignment from Mr. Hegney, but well,
Well, I didn't want to interrupt you, but
No.
I'm ready to respond on a couple matters when it's my turn. So,
Go ahead.
thank you. First of all, there's no case law because I think that proves that it's never been an issue. It really has not. But as was just said, we have direction from the Connecticut Supreme Court that this type of issue is not a basis for the commission to deny an 830G application. It's not remotely a health and safety issue. I would respectfully say that my friends at the Department of Housing are being advocates. They don't have a case that says that identical floor size is a requirement under 830G. And I'm telling you that I've worked with builders over 30 plus years under 830G. And in response to Mr. Yeski's suggestion, every building is different and different for different reasons. Floor plans, designs, location, every building is different, aside from the fact that it would be impossible to collect building plans for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 developments in the time we have remaining in this application. But I would also, in response to Commissioner Macri, say averages has never been the way we look at this. Remember, and you can't look at all the units. The comparison has always been the smallest market rate unit and the smallest affordable unit. That has been the metric that we have used, and I think that makes sense, particularly in a condominium where you do have the ability and the reality of larger units that are sometimes market rate units that are 3 times the size of the average or the smallest affordable unit. That's just the reality of affordable development that has sale units in it. I am giving you my opinion as an attorney well-versed in 830G, and I'm not making things up. I'm not speculating. I'm telling you that the affordability comparability is established by the Schedule B of the affordability plan, the specifications, the quality, the construction materials, all of that stuff, and the equal access to the amenities that Mr. Hegney mentioned. And finally, at the end of the day, these are not small units. These are not units, and the pricing is about 30% of the median price of a single-family home or condominium in the town of Greenwich. That is a huge discount to the market. So I don't think anyone can say that the affordable units should be bigger because people are paying astronomical amounts. In raw terms, they're paying a lot of money, but not compared to the market rate and median prices in Greenwich. So I stand by my opinion that this is a comparable as a matter of law on the basis that I've given you. And, again, the standard is not identical. And the last thing I'll say is, okay, if you have to ask for reasonable changes, which is one of your powers under an 830G review, or condition
Oh, you
of
just
approval,
froze.
what are you going to ask this applicant?
Yeah,
Okay, can you hear me now?
no, you're freezing, but while you're frozen, waiting for your internet to come back, in Doughty, D-A-U-T-I, Doughty
My
Construction.
case,
Your case.
yes.
One of the reasons for the denial of the 830G application was that the affordable units in the development were going to have we're going to be smaller in size than the market rate units. The court held that this concern could have been properly addressed by the commission, making reasonable changes to the application. For this reason, the appeal was remanded to the commission to modify the plans. If you guys are asking us to do that, we will do that. I'm giving you an opportunity to get something closer to the comparability and see if it'll work, see if it gets buy-in, rather than put it to us. That's what I'm asking. I'm trying to work in partnership with the applicant rather than the current approach. So if you would like us to modify your application without further input from you, that is your call. But I'm asking if you would want to reconsider this discrepancy.
Well,
And I
as a
know
matter-
you've got to talk to your client and all of that stuff. So I'm just throwing it out there. We don't have to decide it till the 20th. If I might, Dennis, did you want to add something? Yeah, okay, go, you're muted.
So I forgot to put my hand down.
Okay, so the other thing I still would like to talk about is that I want to switch gears, which is I want to leave you with the thing on the comparability. We know it's in our power. I would rather not operate unilaterally. I feel that we should be working in the best interest of the community, which is to enhance our affordable housing inventory. The second issue is, as you know, and we keep talking about 830G is silent on commercial uses. It says residential use. It doesn't include commercial. Not even clear under the law that an 830G that includes commercial uses is actually an 830G, or that you had a right to use the appeals process because of the mixed use. Not clear. I'm just going to tell you, we happen to have consulted on that topic, and it's not clear in the bar that you had that. So in our minds, if you were going to have, based on the advice we've gotten, at least I'm saying in our minds, sorry, you guys, because I can only say in mine, I still believe that if you're going to have commercial, it has to be conforming and cannot avail of itself at all of 830G. I know, Mr. Hollister, you've got this, I forget, the 10%, and it's really only 4%, but in my mind, it still has to be, and I'm unconvinced that it doesn't have to be compliant. To me, the 830G privileges, if you will, do not extend to the commercial. The setbacks would have to be compliant. Now, I don't know if the commission agrees with me, but I'm going to throw this out there. If you had, so commission react if you disagree, okay? If the footprint were fully compliant with zoning and you had commercial, and then the building doesn't comply, the height of the building doesn't comply with zoning, I could see getting my brain around that. I'm making Mr. Caspi frown, but you follow me, Mr. Hegney, I hope, because you've been working with me for almost 20 years, so you should follow me. What I'm saying is,
puzzled, Madam Chair.
you do conforming, because, and I give you our Hamilton Avenue 830G, the footprint of the building was conforming as to setbacks. The ground floor of the building has commercial. It is conforming as to setbacks. We then let the applicant go above the height max because his 830G was residential. Now, Mr. Hollister, what Mr. Hegney may recall about that application is we did a very interesting thing. We handled it as two applications. The commercial was one application, and it was conforming with zoning. The residential was an 830G. So the residential was above the commercial. We approved the residential above the commercial. That doesn't have to conform with zoning. It avails of 830G, but we made the commercial on the ground floor fully conforming, and it was not an 830G. That's how we did that one. We're happy to send you the decision letters. You know that I write War and Peace. Happy to send you guys that. Mr. Hegney's familiar with it. But in my mind, a commercial use in an 830G has to be compliant with the zoning. It is not entitled to take advantage of the Affordable Housing Appeal Statute.
And Madam Chair, that was what I went over earlier in my remarks.
You only
that
have
we
a
did
little couple of small nonconformities, but you're still nonconforming.
No, maybe I didn't explain it properly.
Well, I kept saying to you, so you're non-conforming still on the following, and you said yes.
Then I was not
In the record.
understanding your, well, let's correct the record then, Madam Chair, that both sides of Mason Street for the retail are conforming to the building zone regulations of the town. And we do that through meeting the setbacks off the street on the east side. And on the west side, we do that by utilizing section 6-129, which permits you to have the average setback of the buildings to be used, which we're using. And also there is an issue on the south side where we can only have a portion of it as on close to the, it's not the existing buildings on the property line. This would be just off the property line. And on the west side and north sides, the existing buildings are, or existing building are on the property line. And we're not changing that.
Before Patrick speaks, you are arguing that the retail is conforming, but the structure
Correct.
that contains the retail is still not conforming and is availing itself of 830G. And that is not how we have set precedent. Patrick, do you have any comment?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think we were talking about the south side and the Mason Street side, but for the east side, Mr. Hegney, the measurement from the outside of the building to the property line here, is that 25 feet, which is the required?
No, it's from the retail portion of the building
No.
to
the
the
structure.
R6 zone line, which is
So-
also the property line.
Madam Chair, I think that's more to your point, is that
Yes, it's
the
got to be the whole
measurements
structure.
are being taken from places that don't exist
Yes.
in the regulation. And I'm not trying to say anything other than the regulation says the building the structure and the property line are the points of
So,
distance. When
Early on, we checked this issue. And I believe we have a legal opinion in the record on this one, that the setback is measured from the building, not from the use. From the structure. It's the structural setback. You're talking about structural setbacks, and that is not being met. And that's where we're disconnecting. We're talking about the structural setback, not the use setback. And we've asked this specific question. I believe the reply is also in the record. I believe that's in Mike Ziska's memo.
So that's why we submitted an additional plan showing the setback of the retail to the property line. If it has to be the entire building, which is 4 times the size of the retail portion, and you want that to be the setback off of the R6 zone, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, it may
Because
not make sense, but structural
the-
is how you measure a non-conforming, structural is how you measure a setback. You don't measure a setback to a use, you measure it to the structure. I mean,
But here you're saying we don't have to with the
see if I can find this.
8-30G residential use, we don't need to meet any setbacks.
No,
The
I'm
only
sorry,
thing, the
you
only
don't
portion
have
of the building that
residential.
needs to meet the setback is the retail. The rest of the building is all residential.
So you're gonna say that, because you have elevators, I'm not buying this. If you have the retail in there, the structure has to meet the setbacks. Let me see if I can find the, you must
course,
have it. You
the-
have
the
the Ziska
retail-
opinion, right? That we
the-
have, that's public record, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So you've got Ziska's opinion. You know, who
And
teaches all the classes we go to
mm,
and wrote the book.
I gotta get Tim to teach some of those classes too.
Well, and then
Um,
Tim could teach what's legal, he could write a new edition of what's legally required. I
So
tease Mike
the
Ziska that I
retail-
sleep with it.
The retail, for example, doesn't need to have elevators. It is ground floor, accessed off the street. Whereas the rest of the building has other uses and amenities that are associated with the residential use.
I got
not
an
with
easy,
the
I got an
retail.
easy solve for you. You find me the case, you find us the case that says that you can measure a setback from a use instead of from a building, and you've made your case. But there's no case law that says setbacks are measured from the use. Mr. McRae.
Mr. Hagney, I'm looking at the ground floor retail of East Side. I see you got a 51-foot setback to the back corner of the retail from the back of the property line.
Correct.
So I see how you're going to make, there's your argument.
Yes.
Is the parking on this level shared with the retail?
Mhm.
Some of it is, some of it isn't.
Is the MEP spaces that are here and the trash room and the bike rack shared with the retail?
No.
Okay, so
But the parking is.
these uses here are all for upper floor.
But
Okay.
again, Nick, the zoning
No, and
concept.
I'm asking questions, kind of very simple here.
Okay.
Just want to make sure I understand this. Because I'm finding this, that the retail location, right? It's, let's see, how big is this? 6,677 is enclosed in the structure of the building itself.
Mhm.
The walls are common. They're not separated. There's no gaps. It's not a separate thing. It's actually part of the building. And I think getting back to what you just said, Mr. Hagney, a little while ago, it's kind of crazy if you have a very large building up above and a very small building down below. Getting back to, I think what a judge once said, absurd results. And I think this is it.
Burger.
You have these
Burger,
tiny
Burger,
little
Burger. And
pieces of
Marshall.
retail underneath a very, very large building that's taking care, advantage of the 830G statute. This is a perfect example. I've got amenity spaces, hallways, MEPs, elevator shafts, all kinds of crazy stuff, parking, and this token retail. The token retail seems to me the real critical issue because it's enveloped inside the foundation of the whole building. It's part of the building. So if you're going to measure a setback, you're measuring to that point, not to the back internal partition of a use, but to the actual foundation of the building itself, which it's contained in. And it would seem to me, in the course of how many years and years of us measuring setback, it was always to the foundation of any building, not to a use inside the building. Because if that's the case, I could take 10,000 different commercial buildings and I could build them on the property because the use is actually, it's in the front. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lowe.
Yeah, I just have a question for either Mr. Hagney or Mr. Hollister. Again, going back to Justice Berger in this example in that 65 Marsh Hill Road, and he discusses the legislative history that indicates that the legislature intended to accomplish the goal of encouraging, and I'll read it, in facilitating affordable housing throughout the state by creating specific legislation that affects only affordable housing applications, not the overall zoning scheme. Therefore, applications that do not fit into the definition of an affordable housing application are not affected by 830G. In other words, there's no general zoning override extended here to retail. Do you agree with that?
Well, Commissioner Lowe, what I don't know if you saw my November 18th memo on the
Oh, yeah.
admissibility of non-residential space.
I read it
but
very
Judge-
carefully, but
He's read it very carefully. He
Well,
mentioned it
Judge
yesterday.
Judge Berger was dealing with an attempt to do a true mixed-use project, more than 23,000 square feet of commercial use on a 3-acre parcel. And he said that was not what the legislature had intended. I think he was probably right. But my point was that he never said that categorically non-residential use is prohibited in 830G. And it seems to me that the position that various commissioners are espousing at this point is that if there is 1 square inch of residential or non-residential use anywhere in an 830G, then 830G is out the window and does not apply. So that's swallowing the whole.
I don't think we
is
ever mentioned,
30G
hold on a second, record setting. We never mentioned a square inch, number one. Number two, we've not talked about any little bit. In fact, we've gone along with you using the appeals. We never argued with you on that. When you quoted and you sent us a memo explaining the process to us, we didn't argue with you. We were willing to go along with that. We never said you couldn't have a square inch. All we're saying is that the structure, which contains it, has to conform as to setbacks at a minimum. That's all we're saying.
For the entire building. That's your
No,
position.
we are giving you the
Yeah.
massing of the building. We're willing to give you, I believe, stop me, you guys, if I'm wrong, because I think some of you may disagree. I'm willing to consider the height totally within 830G. What I don't agree with is the footprint that contains of the structure that contains, and you can go back to our Hamilton Avenue decision on 830G, and that's exactly what we did. And that, Mr. Hegney, Bruce Cohen was on that application. Mr. Lowe, go ahead. I apologize for interrupting you.
And to that point, is there anything in the law that permits some small size, some small percentage of retail or commercial as part of an 830G? I haven't seen that, but I'm not versed in this very well.
No, it's just silent. I mean, that's what we keep saying. 830G does not prohibit, it is
But
just
Mr.
silent.
Hollister and Mr. Hegney are making the point that, oh, it's just this small little thing. It's, relative to the rest of the structure, it's de minimis.
Correct.
So if we had 100 square feet of retail,
You don't.
that we would not comply because
You don't.
the rear of the
You don't
building
have that,
is
though.
less than 25 feet from the R6 zone.
Why don't you
Is
just
that,
go back?
is that
Mr.
what we're
Hegney,
saying?
Go back to Mr. Hollister's point. If you had 1 inch, that's not really relevant. That's not what we're talking about here.
Does
Okay,
seem to be relevant, though.
The point we're trying to advance is that there has to be a rule of reason here. And if the non-residential is truly accessory, which was the discussion we had last time, de minimis is another category, that should not overturn the ability to use 830G and have your focus as a zoning commission be on whether the floor plan and the development plan creates a substantial public health and safety issue. And
Well, of course,
here we're making
we-
a setback for a non-residential use, the driver of this entire application.
great, but listen to this. As you pointed out, and we're going to go over this again, we have the ability to modify your application in these regards because 830G does not include any mention of commercial, and we can modify. The question is, we are asking you how you would modify it, what you would consider, because we would rather work in partnership. If you want to leave it to us, okay, we will do. We're not saying it's grounds for denial. You have not heard us say that. What you have heard us raise is concerns about consistency with the statute. Therefore, we're giving you a chance to partner with us and to work with us to advance affordable housing. I mean, that's your call, what you guys want to do.
And what we have said is that the plan that we have before you is not prohibited and is actually meeting the requirements of 8-30G, including the retail portion and all of the units that we're proposing, that we do meet that.
Including, so the fact that your affordables are as small as 50% of the same number of bedroom unit, and also that your retail is in a non-conforming structure, that's where you stand.
Because it's not a non-conforming structure because it's all residential that is near the setback line.
The structure, again, Mr. Hegney, setbacks are measured not from uses, but from structure from the building itself. You don't measure from a use. So, I mean,
we seem to be at an impasse on this matter,
Yes.
Madam Chair.
We do. So again, if you guys want to reconsider, we have some time left before we have to decide that if there's anything that you want to do to reconsider these issues. I'm for one very open, and I could plead with the commission to be open. I hope you're all open. We're trying to advance affordable housing here. Does anybody have any further comment?
Madam Chair, this is Tim Hollister. May I ask, does the commission have a legal opinion as to the
You're polling
comparability?
us?
No, does the commission have a legal
Are you
opinion?
polling us?
No,
'Cause
I'm
we
asking if you
cannot-
have an
Have we received a legal opinion?
on comparability. That would help us review where what information you have.
Sadly, when I believe that some of the opinions we have are confidential. So I
Yeah,
will
it
have
can't-
to ask my attorney if those are releasable.
But they can't be confidential if you're going to be a basis of your decision. It would have to be part of the record, respectfully. And we'd like the opportunity to see it,
Actually, there is such a thing as attorney-client privilege.
not in a public hearing like this. Or if you're
We've
relying
never
on legal.
been, I will ask our lawyer about that as well, because we have never been questioned on anything that is.
Mr. House, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the commission is not making an opinion right now, so I don't think there's any basis to disclose anything. I think you're asking is, your question is, have we gotten a legal opinion about comparability? I think the commission has said here in the meeting, and I'm not disclosing anything from a memo, that there does not seem to be any case law that supports your opinion that there is no, there's a 65% or a, number that it just silent on it. And I'm not, so that's what's being said here, but we're not at the point of making a decision tonight. So I'm not sure if that's what you're saying, but I don't think that's appropriate at this point.
Well, the question I'm asking is, does the commission have legal opinion that identical, the standard apparently being espoused by the Department of Housing is the legally required and enforceable standard? And if that's the case, I think the
We
commission.
have an old opinion from Mike Ziska on another application, and I think that's where the confusion is. We have something from Mike Ziska on another application from which we are citing all the cases.
Well, if
But
we could
what
see-
we're aware of, yeah. But again, I believe that's in the records of the previous application. But in addition, as you know, we have all the citations from all the stuff, all the case law as cited in the Connecticut Bar Association seminar. Oh, you want to see it? It's right here. This is the one from the last seminar, so I can send that one to you.
I haven't.
Okay, so that's what we're talking about. We all go and we have those. Okay. Is there anything
Question.
else on this?
Question.
Yeah.
What if we were to make as a condition of the approval that the affordable units are 100% of the size of our smallest market rate units?
Well, so a one bedroom would be 100, a 3-bedroom affordable would be 100% the size of a market rate studio?
Of our market rate 3-bedroom?
Oh, yeah, no, I don't even, I mean, that's what the DOH recommends, and what I was saying
Well,
to you is.
I'm asking if we agreed that our smallest affordable unit in each category was 100% of our smallest market rate unit. Would that be acceptable?
Wait a minute, so, yeah.
If
and
a
what we're-
3-bedroom is 1,600 feet for a market rate unit and a 3-bedroom for an affordable is 1,600 feet, would that be acceptable to the commission?
So the 3 bedrooms are the same. Patrick, you have your hand up.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt you, Madam Chair. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
I think what the commission is saying tonight is that the analysis is only apparently between the smallest below market and market rate unit. I think what we would appreciate is just a number of all the units compared to each other, the 3s and the 2s, and what the square footage is. I don't know why we have to parse it out between the smallest and the smallest. I think it just needs to be an overall discussion, because I think it's just helpful. I'm not hearing an opinion that the commission wants exactly the same square footage, but I think the analysis of how small or how different between the two needs to be fleshed out, because when we're looking at it, we're having some stark numbers. Because
I get that, but Pat, there's a range. Like in any building, there's a big range.
I appreciate that, but when the memo comes in and says our units are 85% of the market, and then you again, you subject that to saying, well, the smallest unit and the smallest unit are 85% of each other. That's not the same thing as comparability across the board. And that's, that's what we just like to have all the stats. I don't know how to, I'm unfortunately, I'm expressing my opinion about the data. So if the commission disagrees,
No, I mean, I was trying to get my brain around what they were saying. Mr. Kesby, I'd like you to think about it and think about how you would like to do it rather than I know you're a man of action, so maybe this is what you want to do, but just consider it.
Well, can I just say one thing? I'm a little confused. Is the suggestion here that this is just related to the smallest units, or are we talking about the affordable 3 bedrooms being the same as the market rate 3 bedrooms?
That's what I'm saying, that if we have a mix of units that are a range of size on the market side, and we have a mix of units that are a range of size on the affordable side, if the affordable units are 100% of our smaller market rate units in that size category. So if we have a 3-bedroom unit that is the same size in the market and affordable for the smaller size of the market, we have a wide range of sizes in the market because that's just the nature. There's 3 times the amount of units. So we have 24 affordable units, and they will be 100% of the size of our smaller market rate units. I think that's a fair bar to hit. And, we had proposed 70% in our letter. I'm saying we will propose 100%.
Okay, and the thing was,
But it's just 100% of the smaller units. It's not anything larger than the smallest unit, right?
Yeah, but let us think about it. I think the best thing is let us all think about it, so we're not at an impasse like we were. And the other thing, Mr.
Kind
Caspi.
of get a gauge of where the goalposts are, so that we try and hit the goalpost. We don't have a goalpost, and every time we propose something, the goalpost moves.
No, I wouldn't actually say that. I would say that we've been pretty consistent and in telling you that we're not seeing the case law as being when you had the affordable in one building and the market in the other, that we weren't seeing that as something that was consistent with the state. So, as we go, I don't think we're moving the goalpost, but you then make the units small, that you put them together. I like the idea of getting it closer personally. But one of the things that threw us yesterday is that over the weekend, I was looking at these, and I'm not an architect, but I'm like, why are they saying it's 75%? It's 50. And then,
you could take a larger unit and say that, but there's there's over 20 units of the market rate out of 50 that are in the smaller category.
Nick, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think actually we shouldn't be talking about a proposed idea or negotiating at this meeting. If Mr. Caspi has an idea and would like to propose something, put it in writing and give it to us so we can evaluate it.
Perfect.
I think actually discussing potential ideas, and you've actually already said this, we can make the modifications or they can. Sounds like Mr. Caspi wants to make a modification, put it in writing, get it back to us so we can consider it.
Perfect. And that's the best way to do it. Ms. Jones.
Thank you. What I guess I was trying to look for, and I had hoped maybe to even try and do it last night, though, was to look at what the average is. Say, take all the 3 bedrooms in the west building or in the east building.
That's what Nick did. He said, that's what Nick said he did.
That's what you did, Nick? You took all the in each and then looked at how they average.
So
okay.
Can Nick, can you send that to Patrick? Because then we can put it in the record.
Can do.
Because I heard you say it, and but so what Nick said he did just now was that he took like all the units of a certain number of bedrooms and got 1,900 feet, and the for the market, and then the affordables were, Nick. The affordables were 1,200 or something like that.
There's the numbers. You're making it up, but don't worry.
Nick did that. He took all the 3 bedrooms. That's what he said he did, and he was comparing them. So, Mr. Caspi, if you have a plan, I agree with Nick. Tell us what you want to do. Send it to us. We're going to hear this again next Tuesday, and that's our last day because then we have to close. Unless we have the deadline of the 20th, and and then we'll close it and decide it. So whatever you could propose between now and then the commission will have a good basis and we can talk about it.
Yeah, I think the retail, we're not going to be able to solve that based on what you're saying. You know, that'll just be the issue. If that's going to be an issue, I don't think that's really an issue basis for denial based on what I understand. But if you would
No.
like to use that as a basis for denial, then that's your prerogative.
So what I read in the case, what I read relative to the comparability, and I don't know if this would be true for the retail because it is not included in, because the language doesn't exist in the 830G. So it can't be the basis for denial because 830G doesn't mention retail. Again, it's how we modify the application. We would, to Mr. Hollister's repeated point, it's not a health and safety issue. It's just not an 830G if it has, not technically an 830G if it has commercial. That said, as we've mentioned several times, we've approved at least one 830G with commercial on the ground floor, but the structure was compliant on the ground floor to the setbacks. And I mean, we said that to you, by the way, I am really not moving the goalposts. I have been saying that to you from day one.
But you can't bifurcate. You can't bifurcate the structure. The structure
did.
exists to support the 830G building, and then you have an envelope that is at the corner, which is a retail use, which is, it sits on an island from the building, but you can't physically bifurcate the building. It's not
Well,
structured.
we actually bifurcated the applications. We had two
You can
separate.
bifurcate the applications. That's a different story. But
Right. That's how
bifurcating
we did it.
the building that sits around it supports the residential, and therefore cannot conform to those setbacks. That's that if you're saying that the mechanical and the parking areas that support the 830G have to conform, we can't conform on the ground floor.
I think we got to the point where we were at an impasse, and I think I hear your issue. All I'm telling you is that when we had this one application, the footprint was conforming and the building was conforming, and they wanted to have a bigger footprint, and we said no, because you've got the retail use. Okay. Also, when you come back with a proposal, averages can be confusing. I don't know how we work with that. Patrick, do you have any thoughts? Is average?
I think it has to, I think it has to account for all the uses. I understand when
No, average. I'm going back to the comparability issue.
I'm talking about the same thing.
Okay.
I think it's what's not proper is to take them all together, I think, and say we're only going to count, you know, units A, B, and C, and the units D and F, those ones don't count because they're not, you know, we have more of those than the other. I think there has to be some consistency in the comparability analysis of all the units in total. And so if they're, you know, if the largest and the smallest are all within the same percentage or better of being close to 100%, that's, you know, probably that's an ideal situation. But I don't think the commission, what I'm hearing is I don't think the commission is saying 100% to the square inch. It's just that you have to count all the units. There can't just be, I'm just saying this and I'm not describing this project, but there just can't be an exclusion for the penthouse uses, you know, the penthouse apartments because they're on the penthouse floor and there's no penthouse in the market rate, excuse me, the below market rate offerings. That's just not a complete analysis. That's all.
Okay. Do you guys want to hear from the public?
Yes, please.
All righty. Somebody's got their hand up. Okay, and then after that, the next speaker is Deneen. And if you would just, when you get on, please say and spell your last name for the court reporter and we'll put it into the record. I'll go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Kate Jakevich. I'm the Executive Director of the Greenwich Tree Conservancy. I wanted to say that while we appreciate the developer's efforts in creating a comprehensive planting plan, we believe it needs further changes prior to implementation. The plan includes several non-native tree species, such as crepe myrtle and Japanese maple. While beautiful, these species offer significantly fewer benefits to local pollinators and wildlife when compared to native trees. We would strongly encourage revisiting this plan to prioritize native species that would better support Greenwich's ecosystem. Additionally, we recommend reconsidering the use of columnar trees, such as the columnar sweet gum in the design. One of the most valuable benefits of trees is the shade that they provide, which can significantly cool the surrounding area. Trees with broader canopies would offer far greater shading and cooling effects, which would help to reduce reliance on air conditioning and improve the building's energy efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Deneen, and I'm sorry, yeah, okay. Deneen is next. She's not coming into the meeting. Okay, ma'am. Oh, there she is. Okay, Deneen, if you would go ahead and just give us your last name, please.
Yeah. I apologize. My speaker cut out. My first name is Deneen. My last name is Forrest, and I'm a neighbor on Havemeyer Place. And I am speaking to strongly oppose this development in our neighborhood. This project proposes a severe risk and negative impact that will drastically affect the quality of life for the residents and the safety of our community. Traffic congestion and safety concerns is number one on my list. The addition of this development will activate already significant traffic congestion in the area. Our roads are not equipped to handle the increased volume, particularly during peak hours. And as a commuter into New York City who walks by this section, I can tell you it is very dangerous. This will lead to longer commutes, reduced air quality, and general decline of the ease and mobility of residents. Furthermore, the added traffic creates a dangerous situation for pedestrians, as I stated before, including my children walking to school, residents jogging, families enjoying our streets. Crossing the road will become increasingly hazardous, especially in areas without adequate pedestrian infrastructure. My next concern, as stated in the last meeting, is fire safety risks. The increased density from this development raises serious fire safety concerns. More congestion on the roads will slow down emergency response time, potentially jeopardizing lives in the events of fire or other emergencies. Fire trucks and ambulances may face delays navigating through roads that are already overcrowded, and our current emergency services infrastructure may not be sufficient to support this additional demand. In addition, it's just degrading our enjoyment of the neighborhood, as just surviving the Havemeyer Place development and constant construction on My Street and Locust and Ridge. This development threatens to erode the charm and livability of our neighborhood. Noise pollution from construction and increased traffic, coupled with the potential for overcrowded streets and public spaces, will significantly diminish our ability to enjoy a peaceful environment that drew many of us here in the first place. I call to halt and reevaluate this. While I appreciate the town of Greenwich looking into this carefully, I do think there needs to be stronger objections and further due diligence before approving this project. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Patrick, did you want to ask the speaker a question?
Deneen, could you just spell your last name?
She did, Forrest.
Absolutely, Forrest, Forest, just like the additional trees that were asked on the previous speaker.
Thank you. And then, not to criticize, but you read very quickly. So if you have a written statement, if you want to provide it, it would help the court reporter transcribe the proceedings today. That's all. And if you want to email me, that'd be perfect.
Please send us.
I would be more than happy to send it.
Please
Thank
send
you.
it to us because it was a bit quick. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ken. Would you also provide your last name and spell it for the court reporter? Ken, if you would unmute and then spell your last name for us. Ken? Ken? There you go.
Hello?
Perfect. Yes, there you go. So if you would now give us your last name.
Yes, my
and-
last name is Wheeler, Wheeler.
Hello, Mr. Wheeler.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Ken Wheeler, and I would like to discuss some concerns of my neighbors and myself. The 830G statute requires, prior to the approval by the P&Z Commission, that all health and safety issues are guaranteed to residents, not only to the residents of the building in question, but also to the residents of the town. My neighbors and I, and I'm sure many more residents, if they knew what was proposed, would believe that this application in its current state does not meet this standard. With only 17 parking spots for residential and retail use in the West Building, the residents of 20 apartments in one building still have to exit their building, walk up the street, cross a busy Mason Street, possibly in inclement weather and rush hour traffic, into the East Building's underground garage every time they need to use their vehicle to go somewhere. And again, what about the elderly or the handicapped residents, or one who may be carrying packages or even carrying a child? With the increased amount of residents, there's bound to be an increased amount of vehicles and traffic in this area, causing a greater hazard. Also a safety concern, and this concern is for all residents who will drive through, walk through, or live in the area of Lower Mason Street and the Mason Street Bruce Park Avenue intersection, is not only the increased amount of vehicular traffic, but also the reconstruction of our town's roads, sidewalks, and traffic patterns in order to compensate this applicant for this much larger and more complicated than usual project. The proposed street and sidewalk changes to the area will cause vehicles to use other means, and by this I mean speeding down alternate roads and intersections in order to avoid this redesigned area and certain traffic backups that will occur. These traffic safety concerns are certain to occur not only during the multiple years of construction that this project is sure to take, but also when the buildings are fully occupied with hundreds of more residents living in a very small area. Just think of the amount of delivery vehicles and different service calls that will occur on any given day that will clog up the area. During construction, there's bound to be an incredible amount of material deliveries, utility and service work, and crane access and mobilization issues that will alter traffic patterns and cause road closures that will certainly be a safety concern during this lengthy process. And where will all of these workers park, and how far from the site will they have to walk? How many streets will they or other residents have to cross to get to their destination? We believe the traffic issues are going to cause vehicle accidents and unsafe pedestrian crossing issues indefinitely from the day the construction begins. We would hope that if granted, any approval from planning and zoning would not be one laden with conditions that can be satisfied somewhere down the road, but rather one that requires all approvals, construction staging plans, and any and all environmental studies and plans for remediation in place and upfront prior to the P&Z approval. Along with the task of making recommendations for the most desirable use of the land within the town, the Planning and Zoning Commission is, and thankfully so, also concerned with and responsible for health and safety of our town's residents when it comes to these proposed developments. And along with unanswered questions and unclear responses that still remain on the subject of commercial use, zoning nonconformities, unit comparability, environmental, flooding, and fire concerns, we feel that there are still numerous outstanding health and safety issues that still remain, whereby this commission and its responsibility to all of the town's residents would find that these issues continue to constitute public interest in health and safety, which outweigh the need for the approval of this application. As always, I'd like to thank the commission and the P&Z staff for all your service to our town and its residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wheeler. Our next speaker is Ivana Zabar. Ma'am,
Ivana Zabar, S-A-B as in boy, A-R as in Roger.
Yep, I've renamed you already. I found an email you had written and renamed you. Okie doke. So ma'am, if you would go ahead.
Sure. So I support everything and agree with everything that the residents that have spoken before me have said. I think that for myself, nothing has changed in these plans that alleviate the concern for what is also my primary concern, and that is the driver and pedestrian safety. You know, in previous comments, I had mentioned that the traffic study that had been done cannot be representative because there are fundamental shifts. Those two fundamental shifts are the development that has just been completed on Havmeyer and Millbank, which will significantly add to the traffic in the immediate area. And furthermore, the actual development itself will be a fundamental shift in traffic patterns. So we cannot, I don't believe it is the correct approach to rely on a traffic study that does not take both of these into consideration fully. I also believe that there is not fully an understanding of how dangerous that corner of Bruce Park and Mason is, and as well as that stretch of Mason between that short little block. There are so many blind spots, and I cannot overstate how many times I have had near misses in every imaginable situation. Just today, which is very ironic because I feel like every time I comment at the P&Z meeting, something happens on that street. So at the Acura dealership, they have a driveway there where the road curves, and you cannot see it when you round that corner from Mason, which everyone is speeding down that street because they're coming right off of I-95 or they're coming right from Davis Avenue. It is a throughway into Central Greenwich. I nearly hit someone who was pulling out of the driveway without carefully looking because they probably also have a blind spot that they can't see who's coming. So they pull out as fast as they can. There are so many situations there that are ripe for an accident, and that is under the current conditions that we live in today. I cannot imagine what it's going to be like when you put a 75-unit building there and you increase traffic, foot traffic and driver traffic, not just with the residents, but also with commercial. I think it is a terrible idea if this building goes up that there's only parking on one side of the street. That is a recipe for disaster. Something will happen. And I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here. I don't think that one needs to be a traffic expert or engineer to understand that this is just a bad idea, and all suggestions to make improvements, for lack of a better word, feel just reckless because they're not alleviating the concerns, they're actually adding to the issue. Finally, just a quick comment on the environmental concern, which is not something that I'm very familiar with. But that being said, as I understand it, a plan has not been put forward for remediation in any level of detail. And I hope that this is not being left up to good faith or something that is being left to parallel process along with the actual development. Thank you for your time.
Before you leave, Ms. Zabar.
Sure.
The reason I knew I had an email from you is because you had a comment on the events that have been held at the dealership.
Yes.
And whether or not they had permits. Wait a minute, I've lost Mr. Caspi.
Well,
Not seeing him.
I think he left a little while ago.
Okay.
He left when the public comment started.
Okay, so Mr. Hegney, I'm gonna pass this on to you. There have been events at the Honda dealership, and this is nothing to do with your application, but there have been events at the Honda dealership. We don't do the noise ordinance. I have no idea if they had permits for these, is it a waiver from the noise ordinance that you have to get? But Ms. Zabar has reached out to us on weekends to say that the noise is unbearable. Could you just pass that on to Mr. Caspi? Doesn't have anything to do with the application, but she has been reaching out, and she's not the only neighbor I've heard from, but it's amplified music. And the last I heard, the first selectman had not granted a waiver from the noise ordinance. So just so if you would pass that on, because it doesn't help, community support, if you will. And it would be great if this development could have such.
Certainly, I'll pass that on, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for speaking. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Patrick, I can't click on it wait a minute.
What are you trying to do, Madam Chair? I'm sorry.
I got it.
Okay.
Okay. So Mr. Caspi, before he jumped out, he was thinking of something, I think, to discuss it live and not have it documented. If you guys would come back with your final thoughts, next Tuesday, and then we'll close it up and do our thing. Unless you
Alright.
want to make closing remarks?
No, I think it would make sense for us to review what the commission has said, see if there is any value in us amending the plan that we have currently pending, and then discuss that with you next week.
Yeah, because again, I would really rather have proposals come from you that work for the applicant. But there you go. Okay. So thank you for coming, and this item will be continued then. Thank you
Right.
both.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Now our next application is going to be the Armory. Mr. Yeski.
As you know, I have to leave soon. So before we get into this next case, now that it's on, you might want to appoint an alternate to take my
You're
place.
leaving in an hour. We might be done with it, but
I'm leaving in about 20 minutes.
okay, so if you're okay, the alternate for tonight is, I remember, Madam Jenkins, are you up to it?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you for asking.
Okey doke. So we are now going to seat Madam Jenkins on the next application. And that is the Armory Building. So we're going to seat her for Yeski. And again, seated for Mr. Levy, or having replaced Mr. Levy, is Mr. Wells. So this application has all been McRae, Wells, Lowe, and Jenkins. All right. Mr. Haslam. Listen, anything you do will be easier, right?
I was wondering if you want to take your dinner break now before you.
No, no, anything you do has to be easier.
That's good.
No, we've got people that need.
Yeah, Chip
Okay.
Hass for the applicant. With me tonight is our usual team, which is Victor DeChico from HB Nitkin, Robert McCall, who's filling in for Blake tonight, but you've seen Robert in the past from JKRP Architects. Andrew Kuzmich from Redness and Mead, Eric Rains, our landscape architect, together with Brian Westermeyer, and Bernie Adler from Labella Traffic Engineering, together with Viashali Theraveden Godam. Sorry, Viashali, if I mispronounced that, but it's a long name. Bernie may be a little bit late coming. He had a conflict, but Viashali is going to fill in for him if need be.
I got an answer for you on the Bernie Adler thing. You were listening to the briefing yesterday.
I was.
Personally, I read what Beta said. I read what Mr. Adler said. Read what Beta said. And at the end of the day, if Mr. Kiselak is happy and Beta's happy, I would be really happy personally, because I couldn't figure out what they were talking about.
Well, I think we've satisfied Beta. They were like, they went through all of the various responses that we gave to their comments. And I thank them, by the way, for doing that on a Saturday, getting that in on a Saturday. As you know, we started this with a pre-app back in 2021. So it's been a long road. And the big issue, of course, was the drill shed and trying to keep that. We found a solution to that, which is fantastic. So when we were before you on September 17th, you opened this matter, and you then kept it open basically for us to do a traffic study, which Labella has done. There's a couple other things like a photometric study, which you've also done, and making sure that sewer got the flow reports, which was also done too. So those were the open issues as of September 17th that we've been addressing. I was a little concerned that the traffic report and then the response from Beta and the response back from Labella was going to do what it's done basically to us, which is get us to a night where this is a must close, unfortunately. And I saw it coming back in September. I thought, oh boy, and we were really hoping that wouldn't happen, but here we are. And the other thing that happened was we've got a report from DPW traffic yesterday indicating some issues with the traffic signals, and then also yesterday from DPW engineering talking about the drainage exemption. So we're kind of on our heels on those issues, which is unfortunate because I think we've got everything else resolved. The one comment, or actually two comments that Beta had, one was to the issue of having a signal when leaving the garage rather than a stop sign. And we're of a mind to agree with Beta on that and just go with a stop sign and not have a signal coming out. So that issue hopefully is resolved. The other issue they mentioned, which was number 13, they just described the proper way of resetting the signal for the fire department, how it has to be located in relationship to the sidewalk and the firehouse, et cetera, which we're fine with, we agree with. I'm told by my experts.
I didn't understand that. That was one of the parts that I didn't
Okay.
understand, and the mast arm and the stop sign. I was having trouble following what the relevance was about the mast arm. If somebody would speak English to us, it would really help, but I suppose we all speak zoning. I listened to myself in the last application babbling about it's the structure, not the use, and I thought that wouldn't make sense to anybody.
Yeah.
So, if I would like to understand, the important thing is that the fire department be satisfied that they can get in and out and not have an issue. The Beta comments about entry and exit on Havermeyer didn't really follow any of that. Again, if Kiselak can just sign off, we'd be good.
Okay. I mean,
Okay,
I'd be
well,
happy
it
with
was
that
just hard
too.
for us to follow what they were trying to say. Patrick,
Well, I
did you
think
want to
that-
throw something in?
Yeah, well, my experts are telling me that usually when you're talking about the signals, that's usually something that's done. It's very technical after approval of the site plan. In this case, all we're doing is moving the signal that serves the fire department west a few feet, and we've met with the fire marshal. He's okay with that. We've agreed we'll continue to work with him and with highway and anybody else to resolve that issue. But that's all we're doing. And Beta's saying if you're doing that, this is how you have to do it. And we agree. That's fine. So I don't think we have any disagreement with Beta at all. I thought I had a discussion with Pat about 10 days ago or so when I got an email from Kislyak raising this issue for the first time. And my understanding was that as long as I thought Pat had worked out that as long as we get a preliminary plan as to how this is going to be done, Kislyak would be okay with it. That was my understanding. And Pat, if I misunderstood that, please speak up. But we did submit a preliminary plan, and we intend to do whatever we have to do to satisfy the town, and if it's the state too, the state, as to how we're going to relocate that one signal. We're not going to put a signal coming out of the garage anymore. We're just going to use a stop sign, as Beta has indicated, and I think Kislyak did too. So, Pat, am I right on that? That was the understanding.
Your summary is correct. I'm sorry. I'm just looking. Of course, I closed the window. I'm looking for Michael's latest comments to say that he was okay with the preliminary design or not. That is what they. I'll just back up 1 second, Madam Chair. I did speak to Mr. Kislyak, who is part of the DPW. He, in my understanding, he explained that the moving of these stanchion arms is actually quite difficult to get approved because they're not because of the what's the word? Not because of the work, but there's a lot of shear loads and engineering and footings and understanding how deep they have to go and meeting a number of criteria that the state has. So in his opinion, it's one of the top 3 things that takes a lot of effort in the design side of things. And so he wanted to see a preliminary report done that shows all that. So I'm just looking for today's comments here.
Which we submitted at the end of the response to Beta of the other day.
I'm sorry, Bianca, did we not get DPW comments from today?
I'm looking right now.
I didn't remember seeing them, but I was impressed.
Oh,
that
here we
somebody
are.
Oh, you found them. Okay, I didn't see them.
Sorry, yeah, we did. The 9th. I'm sorry, that's not today. That was yesterday afternoon. We did, and again, I think it raises concerns about the preliminary design. You know, it says specifically, it says that it doesn't show the relocation to the span of the pole. So I think there are some informational pieces that are missing from this that DPW would like. I understand that. I'm happy to hear that the applicant is willing to address the Beta comments. I think that was one thing that we just needed to understand is are those acceptable terms, to not have the stoplight coming out of the driveway, to make sure that the design criteria is going to be met, etc. So
yes,
Yeah, it
acceptable.
seems,
Yep.
I mean, it's a very long memo, Madam Chair, so I'm sorry if everyone's reading it again right now, but
No, I did not see it, but I obviously was working on motions and things today, so I did not.
I will
see it.
just say this, the relocation will not get approved without the state accepting the design and that design criteria being a very thorough. It's just a thorough process. So if the fire marshal has no issue with the relocation, and it doesn't appear that DPW does, however, doesn't seem DPW does except for the material design parts of it. You know, it may be something that we can, if we want to have that report done before permits for the building, obviously before relocation. But that, that it seems like this is more of getting the design further fleshed out and not the concept itself as being a problem.
Yeah, and I'm told that it takes several months usually to get the state, if the state has to get involved to approve it. So I think we can just go under the usual conditions that we will satisfy all comments from the engineering division, basically, which you have typically as a condition of approval on any project. And then, as Pat said, prior to a zoning permit issuing, make sure that that's the case. So that's that matter. Anything else on that particular issue? That the commission has?
Yeah, I just wanted to have a good handle on it. And at this point, I feel like we just need someone to explain it to us and give us all the pieces. And so, ma'am, it's Thiruvengadam is your last name?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Good
thank you.
evening.
So, Patrick, just so you have it, Vaishali is her first name, and her last name is Thiruven, as in Nancy, Gadam. Thiruvengadam.
I'm sorry.
I'll do it. You know what? I'll just do it. I've got your name in front of me. I'm just going to rename you
Okay, yes,
because we just need it for the court reporter.
sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's the traffic. What else do we have outstanding? Bunch of those questions on the tree wells. Those are the ones Bedford has, right?
Yeah, if the commission wants us to put in those cells, I mean, we'll do it. That's
Yeah.
fine. That's not a big issue. I mean,
You know,
the tree warden has approved our plans. He did make a comment about using silver cells, and somebody else did too. I think it was conservation, maybe. That's fine. We can incorporate that in
Okay.
the plans. No
All
big
right.
deal. The photometric plan that we submitted, Jackie raised the issue that it may not comply with your new standards. So we went back to the company and said, look, it's got to relate to the hardscape. They hadn't done that before in any situation, so they're working on it, but we can resolve that and make sure that you have the proper information on the photometric plan. The FEMA maps, we could update, but the reality is we're
Update them.
1,000 feet from coastal zone, so or coastal resources, it's not really an issue. So it really came down to Gislyak's comments, and then again, yesterday we got comments from Juan Paredes of engineering saying that we had submitted drainage exemption papers back in July when we filed this application. And yesterday he informed us that we weren't exempt. And Jackie highlighted the reason being that because we were a commercial tear down, which is not the case. And I think that Juan may be thinking that we're tearing the shed down, which of course we aren't anymore.
Yeah.
But for some reason, you know, Scott Marucci back in 2017, and we have contemporaneous notes about this, told us that we could do this drainage exemption form, and that the
I'm gonna
property
let
is exempt.
Patrick say it. You're adding a
Well,
residential
no,
use
I
on
have a
commercial.
question. I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Mine's a question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Haslam, did anybody on this particular design reach out to DPW about the drainage analysis needed?
Well, that's what he's saying, that they reached out and DPW came back and said.
No. I believe he said he reached out to Scott Marucci, which would have been with the Chabad project, not with this project.
Well, there's two. In 2017, we reached out to him because we were about to file for this project.
Okay.
And that's when the
All right,
meeting.
okay, so I don't think I remember that you had talked about this project in 2017, right? So,
We were just about to file, Patrick, and we had a meeting, or Andrew Kuzmich did, with Scott Marucci on June 14th in 2017 about this project and
okay,
whether it's exemption
understood.
range.
No,
And
that's what
he was.
I just want to clarify my understanding. So
Yep.
thank you for that. I mean, Madam Chair, this is a residential project. I will say that the language in the exemption form says it's not to be applied for commercial projects. So I don't know if there is a subtext that the shed is a commercial project and redeveloping it excludes the rest of the site. But you know, we were trying before today to have an understanding about what DPW understands about the project and what they think is the applicable course. As I see it right now, I don't know if they believe that exemption is appropriate given the uses of the project or the redesign. But you know, I'm just trying to figure out the timeline of the discussions because again, we've
Okay, so
we've
but
been here for
that,
a while.
to just cut to the chase. If Juan if Mr. Paredes understands, you know, there's a difference in each of these applications until you get to the to the residential use that was tearing down the shed. And in that one, you had a demolition of a commercial and you were going to turn it into residential. Now you're not demolishing the commercial, you're adding residential. If Juan understands all that and he's looking at the drainage plans and you can just get his sign off, it would be great.
Yeah, we agree. It's unfortunate that this just came up yesterday, not back in July when we filed. But and the other thing too is with the Chabad, and it's in the staff notes in the decision. All that was required of the Chabad too was the drainage exemption form, and that was not a residential use; that was a synagogue use. So I think it's just continuity
but
here.
then maybe, yeah, or is he seeing a difference between those? That's him to say. That said, you know, we'd like to be supportive of your effort. If you've got a good drainage plan and you comply and you have a right to the drainage exemption, you know, we want to be supportive of you.
Okay, I think again that could fall under the usual conditions that you issue that we have to satisfy.
Yeah, but you have all these other things, you know, for me, we just need to be clear. I think as long as, yes, but I think Juan can get back to you before we were to close this. And I think in the meantime, you can finish with the traffic, which I don't think we've gotten buttoned up enough. I guess because I'm still confused about what it is that works and doesn't work. Nick, are you
Well-
waiting to speak? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, go.
Mr. Haslam, if you can update your sewer acknowledgement letter to reference the November 20.
I did. It's already in the file. I did that
Okay,
last
I
week.
saw something, but it only referenced the October. The
No, I
November
have one that
20th is
I filed
critical.
last week on Thursday, and it references November 20th.
So there's also, and I can't remember who on the commission asked this yesterday. People were asking, you know, the spaces that you have to provide for faucet. You're not clear anywhere is that 91 and that's what the contract says?
No, there's 91 spaces that are used jointly by Fawcett and by the Armory. 27 of those, you folks, when you approved the office use of the Armory several years ago, are dedicated to the Armory use, and the rest are for general use. And then you have the 12 additional parking spaces that are for the residential use are going to be coming.
Yes.
That's
How
what we-
many are promised to Fawcett? Because we always ask, everybody kept asking this. They asked again at the briefing yesterday, and we did not have the answer. How many are committed always to the Fawcett use? You have to answer me right now, because that's one of the little nits that we've been asking for, I want to tell you, it's as many years as this, and somehow every time we ask, it slips through the cracks. So let's just get it on the record so we can say so many spaces are required for the Fawcett, so many are for general use, so many are for office use, and the 12 new ones are and the 12 spaces for the residential. And it's the Fawcett use that we've been unclear about, and we should know what the contractual obligation is there.
Yeah,
Okay.
Victor can answer that too first, but
Mr. Haslam, it's 91 spaces that are obligated to other sites, the Armory itself
No.
and Fawcett Place?
No, there's
No.
91 spaces in total that are for office use, including the Armory and the Fawcett Building. Of those 91.
And
that
general
would-
use, and then you said a piece is general use. So there's
No,
3 pieces, Nick.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
maybe here's Victor.
Hi, Victor.
Uh,
Did she
Hi,
go?
everyone. This is Victor DeChico with HB Nitkin. Thanks for hearing us tonight. There are total 91 spaces. The Armory has been in the zoning to get 27 of those spaces, so the remaining goes to the Financial Center. It's a kind of a share back and forth. There's some that are dedicated in the Armory. The 33 inside the Armory garage and the shed are dedicated to the Financial Center. And then the rest are open spaces in the outdoor lot.
So, Mr. DeChico, what we keep asking and somehow never gets answered is, there is an agreement with the financial center somewhere that commits a certain number of spaces. And I think when we did the synagogue, we knew what those were. And we may also have it in the record, but that's what we're asking. How many are hard committed to the Fawcett Place users?
I
Don't
don't know
have to
that we
answer me
have a,
now.
I'll be honest, I
there-
don't know that we have a hard number.
There is
because
one, I think.
I don't know that we had a
Okay.
hard number, other than having, I mean, if you look at your last zoning approvals and we had to dedicate 27 to the Armory, the balance would then be Financial Center.
Okay. We'll have to try and find, I mean, if you guys can find it, it would be great, because I remember we've talked about it before and it's wiggly. Nick, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Mr. Haslam, when you speak to Mr. Kiselak, can you lead with the drainage issue? You have a garage, there's really nothing, there's no way to where to put it on your site. And I think I should get a clarification, because as I see this is a commercial development. It's 3 or more families. So that defaults to the commercial. I'm not too sure if you can take advantage of the tear down exemption.
That's what
But
I
if you
was
can lead with
wondering.
that and if you can get us a memo to that effect, that may just resolve that immediately,
But would
please.
that be
Thank you.
Kisilak and not Paredes?
That was Paredes.
Paredes, Kiselak, same
Yep.
people.
No, totally different people. You know that, Nick. These
Yes,
people
I know
are
that.
Your buddies.
I see them every
Um,
day.
Uh-huh.
I think we
Okay.
were just relying on, what we've been told previously by the
Yeah.
town engineer on 2 occasions.
I know.
But also on this particular project back in 2017, before we let the Chabad go forward with theirs and then
Yeah,
came back to you.
Patrick, if you need, talk to Patrick, see if he can help you out at all, because I see the issue that Marucci told you one thing, you're hearing a different thing from from Mr. Paredes, but
Yeah, but if we're going back to 2017, I mean, an update here because it's 2024 would be
No.
a primary thing. I mean, I had
Okay.
hair back in 2017, so I think we really need to check this.
In 2018, though, too, if you look at the Chabad decision, it was December of 2018, and they stated at that time too that all it was a drainage exemption certificate. That's all it was filed. There wasn't a further study, but hopefully we can resolve it. It's just unfortunate that it came up yesterday for the first time when we've been dealing with these issues for all these months and thought that we were pretty much on the 1 yard line, but we'll work it out.
okay, and then also Conservation asked you how you calculated the drainage exemption, so if you have that anywhere, if you could submit that.
Yes, so Andrew Kusmic from Redness has indicated that the calculations that he has are correct in the drainage report, and they mirror what he's showing as existing conditions and proposed conditions. The only place that popped up, which was in the energy narrative, where Blake, one of the architects, put that in, and I believe, if I understand correctly, neglected to account for the planting beds, which have 3 feet of fill. So it should have been much more favorable in his energy narrative. But we just did the energy narrative as a courtesy anyway, because we're exempt from it. So it's unfortunate that even came up. But that's the reason for the disconnect.
Okay. I think we've hit it all. Does anybody have anything else outstanding? I mean, there's nothing major, Mr. Haslam. It reads to me like it's just cleaning up, and especially with the drainage and the traffic, your 2 cleanup areas, and then you should be good. Now you
Just
just
a
have
a
to,
quick question for Mr. Haslam. I'm sure you can answer this. Mr. Haslam, between the ARC and HDC a year ago, August, a year ago, June, has there been any significant changes to the building?
No, and in fact, we were in front of HDC just this past July, I want to say, because we had to go back to talk about the window inserts that we wanted to put in there. So they've been following this. I don't know how many times we've been in front of HDC, maybe 7 or 8. But most recently, the plans that they looked at are the plans that you are looking at. Similarly, we went to ARC last September, and they made.
why?
Pardon me?
Why?
You asked us to.
Oh, that was Nick, probably, because
Yeah.
isn't it weird? that we
Landscape
went-
lighting and signage. That's what
Right.
they
No,
do.
but they reviewed the architecture and I couldn't figure out why HTC reviewed the architecture when you already had the HTC sign off.
It's okay. ARC made some recommendations. We incorporated them into the plan. So what you are looking
I'm
at.
sorry about that, Mr. Haslam. 'Cause
That's okay. What you have in front of you is what HDC and ARC have reviewed. They've been refined to reflect ARC's comments, and the last set that HDC saw is the set that you have in hand. So they are exactly.
Okay. And that was 9/7/24 from JKRP.
Yes.
Okay.
And we asked about the planter walls and you said that's been, I'm reading this and you now have drawings for them. Yes? Brick core belling similar to that at the cornice of the adjacent armor. I think it's okay. All right.
Yes, that's incorporated.
Great.
Okay.
That's what the drawings represent.
Okay. All righty. Anybody from the public? Yes. Oh, good, because the Tree Conservancy is here. So the first speaker is going to be from the Tree Conservancy. We're ready for the public, right?
Yes.
Okie dokie. Just checking. All righty. Hello.
Hello, I'm Kate Jakevich from the Greenwich Tree Conservancy. I wanted to say that we've been following this application and really appreciate the applicant's willingness to work with the tree warden throughout the process. We're especially pleased that the applicant is considering the use of silvacells, which are shown to greatly increase the health of street trees in urban areas. However, we are still disappointed by the applicant's refusal to preserve the 3 large mature oak trees along Mason Street. These oaks with their full canopies significantly enhance the character of Mason Street, which is a vital part of the prominent Greenwich Avenue district. Their presence helps beautify a street lined with large buildings, and their removal would result in a stark and noticeable decline in the area's aesthetic appeal. Beyond their visual contribution, the extensive shade canopy of these oaks also help to reduce heat on Mason Street while also filtering harmful airborne pollutants that can affect the health of nearby residents. The applicant's proposal to plant 6 smaller replacement trees falls short, as this could take a decade or more for these young trees to mature enough to offer similar benefits in cooling and appearance. Given that the oaks are situated at the edge of the property and construction zone, we would strongly urge the applicant to explore alternative designs that would allow these trees to be preserved. Their retention would not only maintain the area's character, but also uphold its environmental integrity. But we have noticed how closely you're working with the tree warden, so we do greatly appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. These rubber, the flexible porous rubber tree pits, they would be replaced by the silvacells, or can you do both? Ms. Jakevich?
Sorry.
The flexible porous rubber tree pits, would be replaced by the silvacell, or can you have
so
both?
so the silvacells go underneath it, and then basically you put in the silvacells, and you they help prevent soil compaction. So you
You
can
know, I
still
know how the silvacell works, but I don't know if it can work with the rubber tree pit or whether the rubber tree pit is instead.
I think it would work with it, but you would have to ask the
Okay, I'll Google it. That's why they made Google.
Yeah.
I
I
should
just
say, if I may,
Oh, yeah, there's our landscape expert. Go ahead.
now, actually, we do have our landscape architects on who could address this, I'm sure, but I just want to make clear that we are happy to use the silver cells if we
Yeah.
can, but you have to work around utilities sometimes too,
Yeah.
and whatever, so we'll do it to the extent possible. We're gonna explore it.
Okay. Does anybody else from the public wish to speak on this application? No. All righty. Anything else from anybody on this?
So, Madam
Right,
Chair, if I can ask you, it says must close by 12/26, and we don't have any other extensions available to us. So what was the commission's thought in that regard? Are we talking about next Tuesday?
Yeah,
Okay,
we haven't told Patrick that yet, but yeah,
all right, so then we've got to work on whatever we can work on to try to resolve some issues still.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. I mean, and if you don't, we'll just, what we would do if we leave anything that you think we can condition.
yep,
And whatever you think, we're gonna be worried about the traffic and we're gonna want to make sure that your drainage is okay.
okay,
Okay, so the most important thing is for you to get Juan. Perez. And then and whatever you can do so that the traffic makes sense to us, and then we would be in good shape, and then we'll tell Patrick we're just gonna leave it open. We don't totally have to leave it open, but just in case you want to say something.
right. No, I think that's important if you could. Yep,
Yeah, okay. So we'll leave it
I
open.
would leave
and-
it open.
Yep, and we're just, Patrick is hopefully not hearing us right now because we're adding stuff to an agenda that isn't supposed to exist. But since it's out there, we'll add something to it. And then we can, because you've been doing this for a long time and you've got pretty much, it looks like you've got everything buttoned up. And I think hopefully this is going to be a pretty project.
I think it's gonna be a
Pretty-
great project, but boy, it's been a long slog.
I know, but
No.
in all honesty, it's better than all the other iterations that we've had. So we're finally at something that I think you as a Greenwich resident are going to be proud of.
Yeah, I think we're in
And-
agreement. Yep,
And we've had other iterations where it was not, this is the closest thing we've got to something that'll save the armory and will be attractive. So, okay,
good.
thank you all.
Thank you. I've got the next one too, if you want to leave me on.
Oh, sure. Okay, so you're doing Brunswick. I had forgotten that.
Yeah.
And Mr. DeChico obviously is not interested, and Miss Thiruvengadam is not in it, right?
Yep, I can release the rest of the team.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And, okay. Alrighty, so our next application is number 9. It's the Brunswick School for a final site plan and special permit to improve the baseball field bleachers and adjacent sidewalk path and add 465 square foot coaches room to the field house. The result would exceed the volume threshold, which has already been exceeded, located on an 103.7 acre property at 1252 King Street in the RA4. And it's nice because Bianca can help us out here. So Mr. Haslin, if you would go ahead.
Yes, again, Chip Haslin for the applicant. With me is Andy Fox, who's the project manager, who you're all familiar with. Tim Peck, who's the architect, and Dave Ginter, who's the engineer. And if you have questions to ask.
Yeah, we're gonna get them in.
Okay.
Andy Fox, you are in here twice. Raise the hand of the computer that you want to have promoted.
And I don't see Tim in the attendees.
Andy, if you can hear me, could you raise the hand of the computer that you want to have promoted? I think you're solo. Oh, wait. There he is.
I'll try to send a text to
No.
Tim.
To Tim Peck?
Yeah.
I don't know. Nick, do you have architectural questions?
No, I do not.
I
Okay.
wouldn't worry about it right now. That's
Okay.
good.
So
Okay,
essentially,
so Andrew Fox, it's good to have you actually panelist and here. We've seen you haunting the attendees. So welcome aboard. Okay, Mr. Haslam, go ahead.
Well, we attended the briefing yesterday, so we heard some of your comments. It's a pretty straightforward project. We're just making improvements to the baseball bleachers and some paved areas around that, adding a handicap parking spot, and also adding a 465 square foot coaches room onto the existing field house. All of this is on the west campus of the King Street Brunswick School. You had just 2 or 3 questions. One was any lighting to be placed on the field, and the answer to that is no. There's no lighting to be done on the field. Whether anybody other than the school is going to use the field, and that's not what the school anticipates. I mean, it's a possibility, as I think Mr. Lowe said, baseball camps or things like that. But for the most part, it's the intent of the school to use it only for the school. And I think actually what I heard too was only for varsity baseball, but don't quote me on that. But basically, that's the intent.
Just FYI that it's only the school, even the camps are run by the school, no outside groups.
Oh, good, because we were asking that. I know an Andy Fox that used to be on the commission that used to ask that question a lot.
And then conservation had suggested that we try to add some more trees. We've already gone back to our landscape architects who are sketching something out. We're willing to add more. And my suggestion on that is if you could just let us, if we do change the landscaping plan, just work it out with staff.
Staff. I
Right.
think that, does anybody object to that concept? Just let it work it out with staff to add trees for conservation. Their comment is increase the tree line buffer behind the retention wall to reduce spread of invasive species and increase planting near the proposed coaches room. They also recommend minimal use of fertilizers, et cetera, due to the proximity of wetlands. I think you're not using them anyway, right?
No, we can't by state statute.
Yeah. Okay. They probably, they've got a bunch of new people, so they may not have known that. Yeah. So I think, does anybody object to Jackie or to Bianca doing that and reviewing the tree planting?
No.
Okay.
They also have to go back to ARC with electronic return because ARC had some comments on the
We're
landscaping.
ready. We're ready to do that.
Okay. I didn't see the ARC comments. What were, oh, here they are. What were the revisions, Mr. Fox?
I believe they moved the trees back, Chip, and what were the other ones?
Architecture,
so I got
architecture
it.
and planting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Biggest thing,
Okay.
architecture and planting, whatever that is that they want to see.
And it was
It
electronic.
says the
return.
landscape review the landscape design and consider how shade and shadow will impact the spectators' bleachers. ARC.
And we
Yeah.
adjusted the trees.
Okay.
We have a safety issue, how close the trees can be placed to each field. So we
Interesting. Okay.
adjust it just for the runoff from both soccer as well as baseball. So we did what they asked as best as we could.
And the ARC is also asking for trees. Well, maybe the compromise, and you're probably thinking about this already, is the conservation request for trees is out of the way of the field. So that would maybe
Yeah.
satisfy everybody.
I think
Okay.
they're just trying to make sure that the wetlands buffer is delineated and it keeps the invasives down on the hill.
And I don't know how the massing of a 465 square foot building relates to the rest of the campus, but I will let you address
You,
that question.
you really can't even see it because it's behind the bleachers, and it's one story. So if you're looking at the field from across the street, you won't even see it.
We saw that. We did a street view yesterday. I don't
I
know if you
mean,
were listening. Yeah. And
I would have chimed in, but the only way you're going to see it is if you stood under the bleachers.
okay. As long as you have Mr. Fox working with you on this, always Chip, Mr. Haslam, we're always looking for a way to change the 150 cubic foot reg so that a de minimis improvement does not need to come back, but we've never figured out how to word it and we keep kicking the can down the road. But this is a lot of work for 465 square feet.
Mhm.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, this is a non-residential in a residential zone anyway, so it would have to come through for a special permit.
Even if they were,
Yeah,
if
but
they were, just because they're building something,
My
Well, you
understanding
can-
is it would still have to come through under special permit.
even if it was just a field improvement.
Right, modification of an existing approved site plan.
Got it. Okay, I take back what I said. All right, okay,
I'll
anything
take
else?
changes to that too.
Yeah, you know what, that's a trickier, that's a trickier one,
I
you
know.
know that.
I know.
You know, you've seen the abuses, you remember the abuses. Um,
I still
Any-
have scars.
you should see us, that's why we don't have in-person meetings, because we're scarred from the waist down. Does anybody from the public wish to speak on this application? This is Brunswick doing work on their campus and also adding a coach's office, coach's building. Anybody wish to speak on this? No. Okay. Any further comment from the commission? Any objection to closing this application at this time? Okie dokie. This application is hereby closed. It was a pleasure seeing you, all three.
Always,
Thank you.
always nice seeing you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Good evening.
Okay. Folks, we are done with our agenda, and then Patrick was going to talk about the budget, but although he looks like he's here, he's actually not. So we can't do that. So we have 2 decision items and the minutes. And I got to look up who was at the meeting because I forgot to do that at the meetings. So, Mr. Macra, are you ready to do the 2 decision items? And in the meantime, I'll
Yeah.
look up the minutes.
I'll do the decisions while you're looking at minutes. Okay, first one. Oops. This is 5 Western Junior Highway application PLPZ 2024-348 final site plan special permit applicant seeking change of use for the entire 14,500 square foot 3-story existing office building to a veterinary use without boarding or kennel services on a 28,572 square foot lot in the R6 zone. Whereas the keeping of pets overnight would be done only when medically necessary. The facility would include both hospital for veterinary surgery and veterinary eye center. Professional staff to include a total of 4 doctors and 20 veterinary employees. On-site hours are from 7:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. Appointment hours would be from 9 a.m. To 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And as required, the property came before the commission as a pre-application on 6/25/24. Commission finds that zoning issued comments on 10/10/24 indicating no issues with the proposal. Sewer Division issued comments 12/5/24 requesting the applicant submit a signed letter of acknowledgement receipt of their P&Z comments. And EMAC issued a review dated 10/9/24 indicating that the applicant has not provided enough information to offer informed opinion on the building's overall energy efficient and potential performance. Therefore, a motion to approve the final plan with the following comments. Per Sewer Division, the applicant has submitted a letter acknowledging comments dated 12/5/24. And prior to zoning permit, the applicant shall appear before the ARC for a review of any lighting, landscape, or signage. And the applicant shall address any and all remaining staff or departmental issues.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Wells has seconded. Mr. McRae, I would amend the motion to state, I missed it if you said it, to state that the commission finds that this application is no more non-conforming than the previous, represents a use that is no more non-conforming or deleterious to the surrounding neighborhood than the previous use.
Got it.
That we find that. Okay. Mr. Wells, how do you vote?
Aye.
Hold on, because I gotta go back to over here. Mr. Wells is a yes. Mr. McRae,
Aye.
Mr. Lowe,
Aye.
Madam Jenkins.
Aye.
Okay.
Wait a
Now
minute.
we-
And how do you vote,
Oh,
Madam Chair?
Mr.
Madam Chair?
Lowe, oh yeah. And Alvin is also an aye, and with that, the motion passes 5-0. As soon as I get into the home stretch, I get sloppy no matter what time it is. Next one.
Okay, this is 1252 King Street, Brunswick School, PLPZ 2024-435. Final site plan special permit applicant seeking to construct a 465 square foot coaches room addition to the Burke Fieldhouse and baseball field improvements consisting of bleachers, extension of the asphalt parking area, asphalt walk, and landscaping. The proposed increase in volume would further exceed the threshold of 1,500 cubic feet per section 6101 on a 103-acre property in the RA4 zone. Whereas the proposed improvements to the bleachers, walkway, and asphalt extension will provide required accessibility and include an accessible van parking space at the entrance to the field. Commission finds that zoning issued comments on 12/5/24 indicating no issues with the proposal. ARC issued comments dated 12/4/24 indicating electronic return. And engineering issued comments on 12/4/24 indicating approval for zoning and building or building permit. And wetlands issued a permit needs questionnaire dated 11/1/24 indicating no action required. And conservation issued comments dated 12/3/24 indicating recommendations to the proposal. Health issued comments on 11/24/24 indicating no issues with the proposal. Greenwich Police Department issued comments on 11/12/24 indicating no issues with the proposal. And Greenwich Fire Department issued comments on 12/9/24 indicating recommendations to the proposal. Therefore, a motion to approve the final plan with the following comments. Prior to zoning permit, the applicant shall return to ARC for electronic review of outstanding issues pertaining to the architecture and planting. Per conservation recommendation, increase the tree line buffer behind the retention wall to reduce spread of invasive species and increase planting near the proposed coaches room. Conservation also recommends minimal or no use of herbicides, pesticides, and fertilizers due to the proximity of wetlands. Planning and zoning staff to review any revision to the landscape plan prior to zoning permit. Per Greenwich Fire Department recommendations, maintain the fire department access road after construction and per the dimensions required by the code. Maintain the means of egress from the coaches room addition and the additional doors that are located in the same area of the building to have clear access to the right of way. And all remaining applicable conditions of previous planning and zoning commission rules shall be adhered to, and the applicant shall address any and all remaining staff or environmental issues.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Madam Jenkins?
Yeah, do we want to state that the applicant has confirmed that no lighting will be used and no outside use of the field?
Yeah, no outsider use. That's great. Great add. Okay, so that motion is amended to include those two comments. All right. Okay, so with the amended motion has been seconded.
Second.
Okay, Wells has seconded the amended motion. And Mr. McRae, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Jenkins?
Aye.
Mr. Lowe?
Aye.
Mr. Wells?
Aye.
Albin is also aye, and with that, the motion passes 5-0. I hereby move approval of the October 1st, 2024 minutes. Do I have a
Second.
second?
Second.
Mr. Lowe has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I hereby move approval of the October 29, 2024 minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. On November 19th, Mr. McRae was absent. I hereby move approval of the November 19th, 2024 minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Lowe has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it felt like an 8-hour-long meeting, but it wasn't.
No, you did beautifully. Well done.
No, I made some mistakes. I made a couple of big mistakes, but okay.
Aren't you human?
No. Tracy, ma'am.
Human.
Ma'am, Tracy.
Yes,
Swear.
have been in communication with Patrick, and the Armory application does in fact need to be closed because Greenwich's policy has been to renotice, and we don't have time to do the 2 notices.
Oh, okay. Did he tell Chip?
Oops.
Not yet, but we can.
Okay, we better tell Chip.
Yeah,
we
I can
try-
email Chip.
No, you know what? I think if we're gonna close it, we should bring him
I mean,
back.
we can take department comments in, but they can't submit new material.
Isn't that what we asked for? We asked for
Yeah.
stuff from Mr. Paredes and
Kiselak.
Kiselak. So that's department comments based on
Already-
drainage issue
Already stuff
and
that's in front of you.
yeah, drainage and the light pole. Right. They needed to clarify those two issues. So that's department
Yeah,
of
whether,
staff that
yes,
can get
whether
back
the
to us.
drainage exemption applies and the traffic comments on the,
So we can close and still accept that information.
yes.
All right, you're gonna have to tell Chip, I hate to do that because we're not even in the public hearing anymore. Mr. Basili's already left. Okay, so I first have to move that we go into the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, so we are now back in the public hearing. And because we came out of it when we went into decision mode, right, Tracy?
Yes.
Yeah, and Basili said you forgot to say goodbye to me. Okay, so you're gonna have to tell Chip we're really sorry.
Yep.
So
I will.
Does anybody object to closing this application at this time?
No,
No.
Okay,
No.
this application is hereby closed and we now end the public hearing.
and this meeting is closed.
And this meeting is closed. And I need supervision during the last 15 minutes because once I see that home stretch, I get flaky.
You did great. You did great today.
So, well, we'll see. We almost, they were traps. Okay. All right.
All right,
So we do what we can.
we'll see you next week, huh?
Hey, we'll
next
see you
week.
next week. And
Same
we'll make
time
the
next week.
decision. We'll make the decision on the armory next week then. And Tracy, we can take Paredes comments. You can take them because although it's closed, it's internal comments.
There's staff comments, correct. Right, they're technically staff comments, right.
So it's steps, so we'll be able to know the
Yeah.
drainage. Okay. Ciao for
But
now.
what we should also do in the future, and this is in that Ziska book that you have next to your bed. I actually think we don't need to do the 2 public hearing notices, but it's what you normally do, so we'll continue to follow that practice for now, but I think there is something in Ziska's book that says you can continue a hearing and you don't
Tell you
need to
what,
renotice it.
let's find that.
But my Ziska
reference.
book is not in my house, so it's in my office, so I can't check it,
Okay, well, Mary.
which was
Mary
part of the
and I-
problem. I couldn't look it up.
Mary and I have them. Oh, you should have just texted me.
I did,
would-
but you're busy.
No,
And I thought there might have been a dinner break that was coming up that we might have been able to have a couple minutes to look at it. but-
no, I didn't get a text from you.
Your dinner break is right now.
I didn't get a text from you.
Didn't go to you and Patrick.
Oh, Patrick. you busy.
7:15.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
That's all right.
My bad. Okay,
It's okay. You were
so,
busy. It's okay.
um,
We'll figure it out. So next time we are better prepared.
yeah, okay, so you can't find it,
I don't have Ziska. I don't have my Ziska book here. It's just not physically where it's in my office, and I'm not allowed to drive down there yet.
okay, so, we'll try to find it, but I'm also thinking we can save money because the problem, by the way, fascinating piece of trivia, the state requires us to publish our public notices in the Greenwich Time.
I know. Believe me. I
It
am
is
well.
The Greenwich Time is the only allowed publication and it's expensive.
I,
So
believe
if
me,
we
I
can
have dealt. I
reduce
have
it-
dealt with Hearst in Weston where they were
So
going to make
they
me
have
put
a
'em in
list,
the
the
Stanford.
state has a list of approved publications that you.
Yep.
I'm telling
And
them,
they're-
I know you know, I'm
They're
telling
priced
them.
differently.
I'm
Okay, well,
telling them.
that falls outside, it's, it's
Yeah,
just
that's outside. We'll worry. That's
Too
not
Too
my
much
job.
information. Time
That's
for dinner.
my job.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Good night. You can talk all you want about Hearst. Goodbye.